Here.
The following is the agenda for the regular Borough Council meeting of the Borough of Pompton Lakes Mayor and Council Municipal Corporation in the County of Passaic. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. on September 11, 2022, in the Municipal Building, 25 Lane Avenue, Pompton Lakes. Consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, the meeting will be open for public comments and shall be in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Borough's Municipal Code and bylaws.
Please stand for a flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a moment of silence for an employee of the DPW that passed away, Sean McClinton? Thank you. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all, have requested and paid for same, published in Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sarah.
Here?
Council President Devine.
Here.
Councilman Cruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Kent.
Here.
Councilwoman Kilgore.
Here.
Councilwoman Pomidori.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney David Rutenberg and our Borough Administrator Michael Sorrell.
Okay, under presentations, it's my privilege to bring in a new detective, Pete Fort. I don't know, Chief, you want to come up and say some things, or where am Did you want to say anything to me?
Okay, I'd just like to say, it's an honor to be here tonight, and have, Patrolman Ford now to be Detective Ford. So if you don't know Pete, or if you haven't, understand the breakup of our department, Pete is our SRO. So he acted as a patrolman. He's been in our schools doing a fantastic job. The SRO position falls under the detective department, so he was answering to, Detective Sergeant Cottrell, and Captain Rodriguez, and they approached me over the course of his work about giving him his gold shield. So even though he's already been in the position, it is an honor to get your detective shield. But the work that he's done, I was in instant agreement that he should get it. It's an honor to have it. He's really stepped up and helped them do a lot of investigations, and the school itself has generated plenty of investigations for him to keep it busy. But Pete is just an outstanding officer. He's done such an amazing job since taking on that new role. So he will be the first SRO that we had that actually receives his gold shield. So it's an honor to get this. Thank you.
Somebody to bring up, is that right? I'll let you stick to the chest.
Waiting on this.
Over. Congratulations. So I know making the shield and becoming a detective is a big deal for our police department, and we're always looking to advance our police department. You know, I'll tell you, we have one of the finest police departments around. We have a younger group, so that's always room for improvement and moving forward, and that's a nice thing to see when we're making improvements within the ranks. So I thank you all, guys. Thanks for everything. Congratulations, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, you got 10 seconds to get out, or you can stay, whatever you want.
Oh my God.
3, 4. Okay, thank you. Nice job, right? Nice job. Okay, can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? Motion. Councilman Brennan, Councilman Cruz, all in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Anyone from the public like to address? I don't know if you guys heard me. Anybody from the public like to address? Yes, please step up.
Oh, my goodness.
It's coming out of your tax dollars. No, leave it open.
I just had a couple of questions on, 24,351. Amending the salaries, part-time recycling aid. Department of Public Works. And I had a question on 24,361. First and middle, dig in, city, green and Passaic County tree bulb and native perennial. And then 24,366, the last one. Resolution requesting permission for dedication by driver, who's driver, the tree replacement, what tree is being replanted?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? No? Motion to close the public session.
So moved.
Council President DeWine?
Second.
Councilwoman Kilburg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, Mike, I'm gonna throw them all to you.
Thank you, Mayor. 24,351 is to amend the salaries for our part-time recycling aides due to a union agreement issue. So that brings them up to minimum wage. I'm sorry, above minimum wage, rather. So that's what that resolution is for. 24,361 is to confirm our annual grant submittal to the City Green Program for all of our daffodil bulbs that we plant every spring. As a practice, the administration likes to get a resolution for every grant that is submitted, just for tracking purposes. I know in the past it perhaps wasn't the case, but that's why that's on the agenda.
Okay.
And then the last resolution is to establish what they call a trust fund, to be able to take in fees for the new tree ordinance. So it establishes the trust fund account in order to do so. So moving forward, those funds can be used to offset costs for tree planting and tree removals within the borough. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to approve the following minutes. Special closed session minutes, August 14th, 2024. Regular meeting minutes, August 14th, 2024. Closed session meeting minutes, August 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Council President DeWine?
Second.
Councilwoman Kilburg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Authorizing payment of bills as listed below. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Bennett?
Second.
Council President DeWine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Consent agenda, does anybody need anything removed?
Hi,
You do?
I do.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go first.
Can you explain a little bit more about 24,353 and 24,354?
24,353 and 24,354, correct?
Correct.
24,352.
352. All right, Liz, accept those three.
Whereas the mayor and borough council of Borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of Borough of Pompton Lakes does desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. 24-343 through 24-366 with the removal of 24-352, 353, and 354.
Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Council President DeWine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, Liz, 24,351. Yeah, 351.
52.
Oh, 52, I'm sorry.
Appointing DB Employee Solutions LLC DBA as a difference card to provide HRA services.
Somebody had a question about it?
So that's the whole plan, and then the provider that you gave us the comps on is rolled up into that?
Yes, so this is the resolution that is required by the State Division of Pensions and Benefits in order to both establish the program and to appoint a consultant to administer the program. So in this case, at the request of the governing body, I did go out and get an additional quote to administer the difference card program. The cost was almost double the cost that I originally got from Connor, Strong, and Buckaloo, who came in to do the presentation at the last council meeting. So it's our recommendation to move forward with Connor, Strong, and Buckaloo to administer the program at half the cost of what I got the quote for. And again, this resolution is a formality in order to submit our application to the state division to get approved in order to implement the program.
That wasn't their original quote. They came back after being questioned about their quote and reduced the price the following day.
That is correct. So the revised price is $65.18 per employee per month.
So after being questioned, they took $25 a person immediately without further discussion off the top. I mean, that email came out really early the next morning. So did we spend a lot of time having those conversations with any other providers to make sure that we negotiated the best deal? Because when this was originally presented, they were the only people that presented to us at a high price point, and then after some pressing, we were able to take money off of it. Had that not happened, had I not asked that, we would have come in at $90 a head.
I did have 2 meetings with Trinity Brokerage Services. The second meeting was after the original quote, and they did inform me that that was their set rate to administer the program. I did reach out to 2 other risk managers, and they told me that they will not participate in this program. So this is the price that I got. And I'm confident in the price.
Okay, I hope the next time we're faced with something like this, we take the time to make sure that we have those conversations before it comes to this point. Okay, that was it.
Okay, 353, 354. Yeah,
Ratifying the
okay.
sidewalk agreement to collective negotiations agreement between the Borough Council and the International Brotherhood of Teachers Local 11 DPW for HRA services for calendar plan year 2025, and 354 is ratifying the sidebar agreement to the collective negotiations agreement between the Borough Council and the International Brotherhood of Teachers Local 11 clerical for HRA services for calendar plan year 2025.
Okay, Mike, you're up. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You had a question?
This is for the DPW union, and then
Yes.
the clerical is for the DPW union? Do we have a clerical down in
They're
the,
part of the same.
oh, they're all part of the
Yeah.
same? Oh, so our clerical here are under this union agreement?
Yeah, so there's 2 sidebar agreements, Councilwoman Kent. One is with the DPW union, and one is with the office staff union that's housed here in the Borough Hall. So both unions have agreed to participate in the program.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Liz, 24, 352 through 24, 354. Yeah, can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Council President Blind,
I'll second
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, introduction of ordinances, first reading,
First ordinance will be-
second reading.
Second reading, the final adoption on second and third Sunday. Ordinance 2436, an ordinance amending chapter 20 revised general ordinances of the Borough Council and changing the licensing date for door and cat licensing and the fee for late file.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-36 for introduction.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
And I have some discussion with that one.
Sure.
Just general overall, just a brief explanation would be fine.
Mike, why did we change the date?
Thank you, Mayor. So this ordinance for introduction is to change the due date for the dog and cat licensing. The thought process amongst the clerk's office and those who implement the program is to stagger the due dates throughout January, February, March to offset the burden of the office staff that get inundated with licenses in January. So it provides a little bit of time to take in the license and to administer the license to the resident and to stagger them throughout the winter. There's no impact to any fee. It's just the administrative, amendment that we're requesting.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kilmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hollywood?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Lamar?
Yes.
2437.
An ordinance amending and supplementing the salary ranges of employees of the Borough of Pompton Lakes in the County of Passaic and the State of New Jersey.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-37 for introduction.
So moved.
Council President Devine,
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in
And-
favor?
Aye.
Can we do
Any
discussion
discussion? I'm
again
sorry,
on
any
that?
discussion?
Yes. Same thing, same question, just,
Thank you. This ordinance sets the salary ranges for the new positions of CRS and Assistant CRS Coordinator. That way, moving forward, if the position was vacant, we had a range for each position that we know that we can pay those individuals within that range. That way, we're kind of capped at the range, and we're not obligated to pay more should someone else maybe with, higher qualifications come in, or someone else takes on the position. They're both capped at the $1,250 and the $600 for both respective positions.
okay, so that formalizes adding that as a line item when the ranges come out in January.
Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Bennett?
Who was that one? I'm sorry.
we can't hear. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Councilwoman Kilmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hollywood?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Lamar?
Yes.
Second readings?
Ordinance to have been advertised and posted on the municipal ordinance. 2432, ordinance amending chapter 10 of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Pompton Lakes and concerning owner responsibility for the prevention of injury to person or property by law.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-32.
So moved.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Second.
Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just this motion? Seeing no one, motion to close the public session on ordinance 24-32.
So moved.
Council President
Second.
Devine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 24-32 for final adoption.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett,
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, roll call, please. Jen?
Councilman Kent?
Yes.
Councilman Kilmer?
Yes.
Councilman Hollywood?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Lamar?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-33, and an ordinance amending chapter 6 of the revised general ordinance of the Borough of Pompton Lakes, alcoholic beverage control.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-33.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett,
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address ordinance 24-33? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Council
Second.
President Devine, Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 24-33 for final adoption.
So
Motion.
moved.
Council President Devine, Councilwoman Polidori, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kilmer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hollywood?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Lamar?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-34. Ordinance amending and supplementing the salary ranges of the employees of the Borough of Pompton Lakes in the County of Passaic and the State of New Jersey, municipal court administrator.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-34.
So moved.
Council President Devine,
Second?
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address 24-34? Please step up.
Lady hit 443 monthly around. Just an explanation. This is all monthly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Mike, just explain what the salary range is for that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for the municipal court administrator, with a minimum salary range of $50,000 and a maximum of $80,000, and just memorializes our new court administrator hire that was hired at the August council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve ordinance 24-35 24-34 for final adoption.
So moved.
Council President
Second.
Devine, Councilwoman Kilberg, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kilburn?
Yes.
Councilwoman Tomber?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-35, an ordinance amending chapter 7 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Pompton Lakes and establishing fees and procedures for mobile payment of parking lots.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-35.
Motion.
Councilman Bennett,
Second.
Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address 24-35? Seeing no one, motion to close the public session for ordinance 24-35.
So
Motion.
moved.
Council President Devine, Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 24-35 for final adoption.
So moved.
Council President
Second.
Devine, Councilman Cruz, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kent?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kilburn?
Yes.
Councilwoman Tomber?
Yes.
Councilman Bennett?
Yes.
Councilman Cruz?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we're going to jump ahead just because we have someone waiting here, and we'll come back to our reports after. So we're going to jump to the workshop. We'll start with the redevelopment plan discussion. Our planner is here, Kristen. Why don't you come on up, introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen Russell. I'm a planner with Colliers Engineering and Design, and although I'm a new face to most or all of you, I actually serve the Pompton Lakes Zoning Board, Planning Board, and Redevelopment Agency. So I've been in this room quite a bit, even though it wasn't in front of you. I'm just going to go through with you this evening on some kind of education and conversation about what redevelopment is and how it happens in Pompton Lakes and how we might go forward. I have a quick presentation that's going to give you a bit of background because I'm not sure how familiar each of you are with the process and the powers of redevelopment. So I'll give you that as a kind of a foundation, and then we'll talk about how it takes place at Pompton Lakes, and maybe some recommendations as to how it could be modified, or questions from you guys, and recommendations from you guys for consideration, and we can kind of have some back and forth after I've given you the presentation. So redevelopment is a power that is granted by the state to municipalities, and it is kind of like zoning.
We
You're
tell
all
them to stop.
familiar.
I'm sorry, Kristen. I'm
Yep,
sorry.
you want me?
Just ask them to step outside. yeah.
Really.
Hey, guys.
It's hard to hear. I'm sorry. I don't
No.
want to lose what you're saying.
We
Yeah.
want to hear your voice, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep
Now they
going.
held back.
Yeah.
You
They saw
scared
Liz,
them.
Yeah.
they saw Liz coming.
They saw you coming, they ran.
They were like, this is gonna be poor.
What's that?
So you're probably all very familiar with the concept that zoning tells us what we can put on any parcel in town, how big it can be, what the setbacks need to be, and that sort of thing. Well, redevelopment does the same thing, but kind of on a pumped up version of that. The law that regulates redevelopment is called the Local Redevelopment and Housing Law. Next slide. Sometimes redevelopment is used for revitalizing downtowns. Sometimes it's used to help meet your affordable housing needs and anything in between. As I said, local redevelopment and housing law is what governs redevelopment. The first step in the process is an area in need study, and that is a requirement that we have to look at the parcels that you have designated as being potentially, that you're potentially interested in redeveloping. We look at them and we use a set of criteria established by the state to see which, if any, of those parcels qualify. Sometimes they all do, sometimes some of them do, and it really depends on a case-to-case basis what's going on those parcels. They'll include things like disuse, contamination. There's I forget how many, 6-ish criteria, and you have to meet at least one of them, or you can kind of include a parcel if it's necessary though it doesn't qualify. I'm not going to get into that too deep right now, but in order to take advantage of the benefits of redevelopment, you first have to qualify under these criteria. Next slide. So the redevelopment process, and I'm going to kind of summarize this whole list on the screen, is that the governing body instructs the planning board to conduct this area and needs study. The planning board does the study and then refers back to the governing body. There's a lot of this back and forth. If the governing body approves it, that gives the green light to the planning board, should they choose to go forward with the redevelopment plan, which would set forth what is essentially zoning. And they write the plan, refer it to the governing body. Again, this back and forth process, the governing body can adopt it. If they do, then there's also a redevelopment entity. In this case, the redevelopment agency is what serves that purpose in Pompton Lakes. And they enter into agreements and conversations with developers, which is the kind of extra layer that we don't usually have when there's normal development before a planning board. So the redevelopment agency makes agreements with this designated developer in terms of what they're going to get, what they're going to give, and then it still does go through the planning board process of site plan approval. But this extra layer of redevelopment agency is really a powerful tool. Next. Here are some examples of redevelopment plans they have in Pompton Lakes. DRA1 and DRA2 are kind of what you have downtown as your, I don't remember if they were the originals, but let's just say they were the originals. And then these other redevelopment plans are kind of scattered in that same area.
Can I just answer, just to bring up, so
Yeah.
some of the council might not know. The previous mayor, when they set up this, gave every property the opportunity to say if they're in or out
Okay.
initially. So some properties were nervous about it and decided to come out, and then later on saw what was going on and then asked, through the investigation you just brought up, to be put back in.
Okay.
So that's why there's some properties that are not in, it's not just the whole downtown. Because at the time, previous mayor gave them the opportunity to be in or out.
So the redevelopment plan, which is what is, to use the analogy, the zoning, governs the development, what's in that redevelopment area. It states goals and objectives, it specifies land uses, it can supersede zoning or act as an overlay. It identifies properties to be acquired and if applicable. That's not necessarily done a whole lot, but it is,
We don't
you don't do that at all.
We don't do,
Yes.
part of our deal that we made initially was
Yeah.
no eminent domain,
Okay.
so we can't use it.
So legally, that's a thing, in Pompton Lakes, that is not a thing. And redevelopment plans generally give you more design control over what is going to go on that property than traditional zoning. Next slide. So this is kind of a zoom in of your zoning map. DRA1 and DRA2 are purple-ish shades. And then the 2 stars are also on redevelopment areas. I think I might have missed something, but you get the general idea that all there along Wanacue Avenue, there's a lot of redevelopment areas going on. So that's what redevelopment is. Redevelopment plan challenges, I should have said specific to Pompton Lakes. One of the ones that strikes me is that your DRA1 and DRA2 redevelopment areas are folded into the zoning code. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it is not very common. Oftentimes, these redevelopment plans are separate packets, like I have one with me. It looks like its own document, right? It's not part of the zoning code. Again, there's nothing wrong with having it in the zoning code, but when that was done, it didn't come along with these extra design standards and supplemental goals and, a lot of oomph that comes behind the redevelopment plan is just not part of it, because it was just dropped in the code more or less like a zone. And so that's one challenge that I know the redevelopment agency faces. They often, I've heard them commenting in their meetings about, the absence of design controls. And that's largely a product of the fact that that redevelopment plan is not its own standalone document. So also, another challenge that you have is the DRA 1 and DRA 2 zones. It's a very big zone. There's nothing at all wrong with having a very big redevelopment area. However, the challenge is that when those parcels gradually, a developer gradually seeks development, here, a few lots over here, the next one might be a few lots over there. It's hard to write redevelopment zoning that would be applicable to everything in any meaningful way. So we can say, oh, the front yard setback is going to be, 5 feet, and the height is going to be 5 stories, or whatever the numbers are. But when a creative developer comes along, it doesn't necessarily fit into the generic guidelines that have been established. And therefore, it's usually better to extract parcels on a project-by-project basis and write redevelopment specifically for them. There's no reason that that cannot be done with what you have now. So when a developer comes along and they have 5 parcels in DRA 1, and they say, whatever the zoning you have for DRA 1 doesn't suit us, but we have this really cool idea. Let's say they have a really cool idea and everybody likes it. It's perfectly legitimate for a new redevelopment plan to be written for that subsection of parcels. But until that happens, and in the meantime, we have kind of more generic redevelopment in place for DRA 1 and DRA 2, which, again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, there needs to be a willingness to amend the zoning when the time is right. And we can talk about when that would happen, why that would happen, and so on. I would also say that having this generic zoning for the broader areas, well, redevelopment is sometimes written when a developer approaches a town and says, oh, I'm interested in this tract of land, here's the idea I have in mind, and then the town can react by saying, oh, we do or we don't like what you have in mind, we'll write redevelopment to fit it or to sort of fit it, to compromise, whatever. Some towns also write the redevelopment before a developer lands on the scene as a means to attract a redeveloper. So, say, I'm not sure that this is specific, this is not specific to Pompton, but say you really want to attract more dense development than you already have, and so you're gonna create a redevelopment plan, and you're going to, without a developer in mind, already say that it can be higher and more dense than the outlying areas. And then you might get more developers' attention and interest on the parcel. Not saying that's what's happening here, but I'm just showing you that there are 2 ways redevelopment can be kind of proactive or reactive. Again, neither of them are wrong, it's just 2 different approaches.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When those decisions are being made, is it solely upon the redevelopment, those elected to that board, that make those decisions before it comes to this dais here?
So,
I'm just curious, like, if they're gonna make a change, I mean, I'm assuming, I'm not gonna speak for everyone, I would like to know the reasons why, and obviously see the documentation that they're putting together, because it's gonna be them ultimately, that they're gonna target or cater that to the developer.
so it's, remember how earlier I mentioned that there's a lot of this back and forth between the planning board and and you guys, and then there's also the redevelopment agency. So as with zoning, the entity that writes the zoning is the planning board, and the entity that adopts the zoning is you guys. When we're talking about redevelopment, that the redevelopment agency kind of gets themselves involved, although they don't have any specific legal role in writing or adopting a code.
Just to be honest with you, you know, a lot of what's going on and a lot of the curiosity and the learning that we want behind this is because the assumption is that they do. That they actually have more control over what happens and what is developed through, you know, whether it's through, you know, the amendment or adjustments of documentation or the project plan. So that's a good point, at least you're bringing that up. Explain to me then what powers that we're hearing that they have within, you know, we're looking to do pilot projects and new development in town, because that's the impression that I'm getting.
So what powers do they have, you're asking?
Yes.
So, well, I will say that although the planning board, is the one who grants site plan approval, they're generally going to defer to the redevelopment agency, will have looked through the plans and the site plans, concept, architecturals first, and will generally kind of bless it, and the planning board wants to see that blessing. But beyond that, the redevelopment agency has the power to come to, it's called a redevelopment agreement with the redevelopment entity, and it's gonna be things like, contributions, like maybe, oh, we're gonna let you, we're going to zone for this building and we want, the adjacent lot to be a park, or something like that. Like, that's really, one of the powers, is that they can have this sort of leverage. It also gives the powers of pilots, and, so if that's needed as a negotiating tool, the redevelopment agency can incorporate a pilot into the redeveloper's agreement.
Can you
But
stop there?
they negotiate those things.
Yeah.
This body needs to approve those things.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So
So I
that-
just want to make that clarification.
Yeah, so, and that was perfect, thank you, because when you said they have the ability to negotiate, well, we'll zone for this if you do this, that's not a decision, right? That's
Well-
something that's presented after that we ultimately
Yes.
decide here.
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of what you're talking about too, I think, and maybe you can mention this, is the conceptual ideas. I think that's what you're talking about, that going back and forth kind of.
Yeah, so, when a developer appears before the redevelopment agency to try to, demonstrate that they are worthy of being designated, they're going to show concepts, they're going to get feedback from the redevelopment agency. You know, although the redevelopment agency isn't granting site plan approval, they really do have the power to decide, well, to recommend who's going to be the designated developer. And if a developer does not seem to be, if they don't have the financial, they can't prove the financial ability to see the project through, or even if they just seem like really difficult, a redevelopment agency could deny them that designation.
So if somebody wanted to build a 14-story building, and the redevelopment agency wasn't looking to do that, they could, in the conceptuals, say, I don't think the town is looking for something that height,
Yeah,
and you should take to what we're saying to listen to,
Yeah.
and come back with a new plan.
yeah, they could, and, I guess a developer could also simultaneously try to have the planning board write that, like that height limit into a redevelopment plan, but if you don't have the redevelopment agency, the planning board, and the council all on board, like, it's just not gonna happen.
So in the opposite example, if the redevelopment agency was presented with a 14-story request from a developer and they were on board with it, at that point, the council was not, they would still ultimately be able to step in and say,
Correct.
no.
Correct.
So to Councilman Cruz's question, we had asked for this because, and I don't want to speak, I'll speak just for myself, but what we're seeing is multiple developers, right? So we have this big project here that's right on the curb line, another developer proposing 14 stories, another one that needs an easement, this one building looks like this building's gonna look like that. Our concern is that we're piecemealing this. We've asked numerous times, and even it's been asked in redevelopment meetings, what's the end game? What's the end vision? What's the end goal? Where do we stop? What are we looking at? No one can answer that. So we wanted to revisit the plan to see if we can put some parameters in place or perhaps include some things that must be required. We have one building that went up that had no green space, and now dogs are going to the bathroom all over the streets. So where do we step in and say, look, this is what we've watched, this is what is not working, or what's coming down the pike that we don't want to see happen? How do we change this?
Okay. So, I will answer your question, I promise. But all of those things should, at some level, be guided by your municipal master plan, or reexamination. So, some of them might not be mentioned in it, but ultimately, the concept of how a town's going to grow should be in your master plan and should at least serve as a path for those sorts of decisions.
Why don't you explain what a master plan is? Some people might not.
Oh, sorry. The master plan is a vision document that is owned by the planning board. They write it and it's in their purview, it's in their office, they're the keepers of it. And it talks about the vision for the town, the growth, the land use, circulation, historic, environmental, parks and open space. It talks about all of these things, and it should be guiding municipal decisions about the topics that I just mentioned.
And done by our planner. I mean,
Yes.
you did
Yes.
mention that.
Yes.
The planning board's not doing it. They're giving the information to the planner.
The
and
planner is
puts
doing it, and
together.
the planning board is adopting it. Yeah.
And that includes updated information for capacity on utilities, for population, for services.
Yes, yeah. And it's updated every 10 years.
So
Or
ours
more.
has not been, correct?
No, it's the last time, the last re-examination report was probably around 2018 or 2019, I believe.
Okay, so with the understanding that should be guiding us, a redevelopment plan can certainly and should include things such as requirements for green space. And there's no reason that sort of thing can't be added, as well as other things that you think would be appropriate parameters. Now, who writes that is the planning board. So this body would send a directive to the planning board that you wish for them to amend the redevelopment plan or plans. Actually, you should tell them that you want them to study certain components of these redevelopment plans. The provision of open space, the appropriateness of height, because it makes more sense for somebody to actually look at it and study it and say why we're picking 5 stories instead of 10 stories and not just picking a number out of the air. So ask them to study it, to write some amendments if deemed appropriate. Then the planning board will hear it and make a recommendation back to this body and tell you what they've decided to do, and then you'll act on it.
So you mentioned in the beginning that ours is unusual in the sense that it's just dropped into the zoning code and not really designed specifically for what the vision is. Is now the time to pull that out and say perhaps this should be more inclusive of what we actually think the whole vision should be instead of just...
I mean, there's a number of ways that it can be done. We had talked about, I had a conversation with the redevelopment agency some months ago because they expressed interest in having a design guide, which would be a very comprehensive look at things like facades, and amenities perhaps, in the downtown. I don't know if that's still on their radar. If something, excuse me, if something like that was written, it could be referenced in all of the redevelopment plans, like, for design standards, look at such and such design guide. In the absence of that, the same type of information could be folded into each redevelopment plan. Now, it could also, I suppose, be plopped into the zoning code, but in terms of, yeah, it could be plopped into the zoning code in terms of some design requirements. They would still lack some of the other content that we have in these typical redevelopment plans, which talks about goals and objectives, the relationship to the master plan, which I kind of just gave you a quick summary of in the meantime. Specific parking requirements that may be unique to a site. We've had conversations at the redevelopment agency about the site that backs up to the parking lot, which is its own set of challenges. And the plan also goes through some general provisions about the relationship with the zoning ordinance, the duration of the plan, how it's implemented, and that sort of thing. So all of that would still be lacking if we kept DRA 1 and DRA 2 in the zoning code and inserted some design standards. However, it might be what you're suggesting still might be a quick fix to get us moving forward in a way that you're comfortable with. If fully extracting them and writing new documents is either too time consuming or too costly.
Could you speak to a little bit about a builder's remedy lawsuit so people understand what that is?
With the affordable housing?
No, just in general, so in other words, we can't tell someone, if he's not in the redevelopment zone. The planning board can't just say, you can't build that, we don't want that here.
Well, that's the case with any sort of,
Right.
If a project is compliant with the zoning, you just in general cannot tell somebody that they cannot build it just because,
We don't want it.
you don't like it
Outside of a redevelopment.
anywhere.
Anyway.
Um,
So if they fit within our parameters of zoning, then
Yes.
they are allowed to build that project.
They are.
Could be
which is-
purple, could be yellow, could be
Right.
no
So the
Control
windows.
mechanism is
Which
to
is
increase the
why,
parameters.
which is why it is, you would desire to have these more robust design requirements in a redevelopment plan, because if you don't say you wish that the building was brick and stone, and they come in with a vinyl siding building, if your plan doesn't tell them that that's not allowed, you can't just make it up. And now you might find a developer who's willing to compromise, and that's happens a lot, and that's great, but if you're butting heads, at the end of the day, you can't deny a project because you didn't like the siding.
But redevelopment can say that, right? They could tell them, we want brick.
No, she's saying if it's not
Well-
written into the plan.
No, they can. I'm pretty certain they can tell them, we're suggesting we want brick.
So
Well,
they
you
can,
just said
they
they
can
could-
include that in part of their negotiations.
Right.
But if, yeah, I mean, now I understand what you're asking. It can be discussed as part of the negotiations, but if it is not discussed then, and it is not in the plan, and down the road that comes up, then you've lost your chance.
So the opening comment was you can't tell them what they can't build it as long as it's within zoning, period.
I think he's referring to the use. The use, if it meets the bulk standards, you can't deny a project because it's conforming under the zoning code. That's where that comes in.
We're never really questioning use, though. We're looking at size,
Right.
visual, and that's what we're lacking. We have no parameters around facade design or,
Right, and that's where the redevelopment plan is lacking.
right.
And I'm gonna jump in now. From what we have, our redevelopment plan is basically a zoning code over a zoning code at this point. So really what the existing plan lacks is, like you said, it's missing that broader set of planning principles, the goals and objectives of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think that there's, at least, from what I hear, a desire and a necessity to, and even from, it's been communicated even from the planning board and the redevelopment agency, of creating some kind of design guidelines associated with it, so that we're not just looking at each project necessarily. And to your point, you're right, because the Capadagli project has different bulk parameters than the Baskin property that is substantially deeper. So the setbacks, applying those setbacks on one project doesn't make sense on the other. And I don't think that we need to get into a new redevelopment plan to establish those kind of bulk standards across the way. They can stay as is, they can be rescinded, whatever it is, and then that can be left up to the planning board and the redevelopment agency to kind of work it project by project. But generally, I think what this redevelopment plan does need is sort of those guiding principles of what we're trying to accomplish, and then kind of back into the specific projects from there. So I think we do need to re-examine the redevelopment plan in the DRA1 and DRA2 zone, not to the point of we're applying new kind of planning regulations associated, but really the
You wanna
broader
add to
vision
it.
that we were lacking from the
Yeah.
beginning.
You want, if I understand you correctly, you're pretty satisfied with the standards that exist, but they're just not comprehensive enough.
It's not even a matter of satisfaction with the standards that exist. I think the standards that exist don't reflect what the projects come in parcel by parcel or project by project anyways. So there really isn't, there doesn't seem to be they end up having to be massaged regardless. Capadagli had to be massaged. Everything's got to be worked out in different respects.
They're okay because you expect that as developers come in, we will treat each site, we will revisit each site.
That's correct, and you know, I think beyond the redevelopment plan, we can leave it to the redevelopment agency and the planning board to work out those details on a project-by-project basis. But we need something to address, you know, open space in the downtown, amenity space, again, how much development are we looking for, what are the heights, what are the vistas, what do the buildings look like, those kind of things.
Well, it sounds like adding more robust specifics protects us.
Yeah. Now, I will say that the redevelopment plans, including DRA1 and DRA2, do address height. So, I don't know what your position is on that, but that is an existing standard.
It's 5 stories now?
I don't know what each and every one.
Yeah, it depends on the zone, but I think if anything that needs to be looked at with respect to height, it might be, and I think the Baskin concept kind of brought it to light, is a deeper property would have a significantly different kind of visual impact, depending on the location of the development to the street, than it would just saying, well, it's a 6-story building and it applies regardless of the parcel and the depth of the parcel and things like that.
I think that perhaps what would work is, since you're acknowledging that as each project comes along, it would need to be revisited, the broader guidelines that could exist until that time or simultaneously would really just address, rather than a numerical height, a vision in terms of
Overall picture.
a broad picture as to the character of downtown is mid-rise or whatever, and the particular dimensions and size of any particular development site may provide a sliding scale as to what that lot can accommodate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having that articulated in advance of being approached for that spot helps us kind of.
Yeah.
So part of the discussion that, and I appreciate everything you're mentioning today, is the fact that I think, and you know this because you're at all these meetings, we go through many conceptuals before we get actually to a project. And those conceptuals change by the requirements that the board and public are putting on the developer at that time, where it's just talking back and forth, nothing in paper. They're hearing responses and getting a feel for how they think the development agency is going to vote.
Yeah.
They're never going to, you know, I've had developers say, I want to know how they're going to vote. That's not how it works.
Right.
You got to present it, you got to hear what the audience is saying, you got to hear what the redevelopment is saying, what the council's saying, what the planning board is saying, and make a decision do I go forward with this or do I change it?
Right.
And that's where the whole conceptual
Yeah.
back and forth things. Did I miss something there?
No, you got it.
Are all the areas that are included in our redevelopment plan still make sense to be included, or are they actually in some cases stopping moving forward? There was an issue, I think, with a building that, a tenant that was looking to occupy a building, and what he was looking to put in, he couldn't get it approved because it didn't fit the redevelopment model, and it's all the way out on the Hamburg Turnpike corridor, which isn't really residential facing to anything, and he walked away, and now the building's still vacant. So I'm not sure,
Well, they could still build without a pilot. They could still present.
are there, well, it was, I have to look up the specifics, but are there areas included in this that maybe just don't make sense to have them in there anymore?
I can't answer that off the top of my head.
Do we?
I can't think of a downside. I mean, I can't think of any particular property that would be like, really doesn't make any sense that you can keep this in the redevelopment zone, off the top of my head.
And I can say-
There's no to me, there's no downside in having, to maximizing the amount of properties at the very least
That are
in the
in it.
redevelopment zone. The mistake happened back in 2009 where we allowed parcels to opt in and opt out.
That's
but
the problem.
besides.
So that, and going to your point, that's important because those people who opted out now see what's going on and now they want to opt in. And that sends another layer that we have to send through the whole investigation and go to the planning board.
Are you looking to do that also?
No, well, no. So initially, when we gave them the opportunity to be in or out, some
Yeah.
properties said out.
Yeah, because they were scared.
They were scared. But now they want to be in, but now that they're not in the redevelopment zone, they then have to apply to be put into the redevelopment zone. And which is what we're running into now. We
Yeah.
have groups saying we want to be put in. Well, you should have been put in initially, but okay, now we have to go through.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you have a batch of people who want to be put in, it's better to do that in one fell swoop.
Yes, we talked about that, yes.
Yeah.
So would an example of that be like the Montclair Ave section where they wanted to put large apartments up, that they needed to be included at that point?
Well, again, it's, at that point, it's non-contiguous to the existing redevelopment zone. They could request that, again, they could go to the council, say that we want to have an area in need of redevelopment study made, which I think is what they started, except they had just made improvements. So it kind of defeats the purpose of saying this is underutilized property when you've just made improvements on it. And then, for whatever reason, if it did become an area in need of redevelopment, then you develop a redevelopment plan. But again, that's site-specific to that location.
Okay.
You can do that, we can do that anywhere if we want to. I mean, we've done that in very discrete properties in the past. We can do it for that location in Montclair Avenue. If we decided we could do it in the DPW yard, should the DPW yard move for.
So what's in there now doesn't need to be changed, then, in your opinion? What we have included, it's.
No, I mean, in terms of parcels, no, I don't think, I don't think, again, we don't need to re-examine the parcels that are in there or not at this point. I think it's just a matter of taking what the redevelopment plan is lacking and sort of giving an opportunity to define that broader vision of what we are trying to accomplish in our redevelopment
So
area.
that there's a little bit more symmetry in what's happening, right? So the projects start to look a little bit more like there's an actual end game, like it makes sense, and the buildings have, I'm not saying they have to be identical, but
Right.
there should at least be some type of a,
Right, and to that point, I mean, I think at least it provides some guidance on, here are the materials we want, here are the colors we want,
that's what
here are
we're,
the facades, here's the transparency of the window treatments, things like that.
if you're
I mean,
allowing dogs, you have to have gardens,
Right.
something.
Exactly.
So what are their next steps then? How do we make?
We-
Can
that
I just
work?
interject real quick?
Yeah.
What you're describing is an awful lot like the design guide
Yes.
that the redevelopment agency has already expressed interest
Right,
in.
they're looking at that already.
So I think that,
But I think you need to make it part of the redevelopment plan, because that
and it
puts
can
the
be,
teeth in
it can be either a separate document or it can be kind of like an addendum to a redevelopment plan. It doesn't like however it's adopted or inserted is the same content. So it's interesting that it seems like you guys actually might want the same thing that the redevelopment agency wants, which is a clearer set of parameters. Now, whether the parameters you're envisioning are the same as the parameters they're envisioning, I don't know. But at least everybody seems to want some more robust rules.
And that came from the membership of the redevelopment agency. I know they had
Yes.
internal discussions about just some of the things that they're bringing up here.
Yeah.
And that's why they want to move forward with trying to get some some of this put into the redevelopment.
Right. Now, although it was the redevelopment, I think this, although it was the redevelopment agency that expressed interest to me on this topic earlier in the year, I'm not sure if they did or did not understand that it's actually the planning board who would write that language, and that you are the body that would adopt it, and they would merely be using it as a kind of a reference.
So we can go back and forth and share some things that we would like to see included.
Of course, so let's say you guys decide that you wanted to do something like this. You would instruct the planning board to undertake a project. The planning board would do so and then present you with what they do.
And I think, Michael, didn't the planning board reach out at one point to ask for some money to start this process?
Yes, but it was after the budget was
Right, it was a bigger number, yeah.
And who works with them on that? You work-
Me.
Okay,
Me or my team.
so we can work with you, with them to make
Yeah,
sure
and
that we don't have
there could
to.
even be, I mean, this, if you guys decide to go forward with this, it could be, we could design, design the implementation or the construction of the document as you see fit. So if you wanted to have 2 people from this board, 2 people from the planning board, 2 people from redevelopment agency, to kind of work together with me or my team to make sure we're touching all of the issues, we could do that.
And I want to remind the board too, that we do have a new redevelopment director who is much more involved in the process of just what we're talking about now. He just started this month. So he's going to jump on this too a little bit and try to get some information for us. And he's going to come to meetings just like she's doing here to present to us his ideas of what he thinks should be going on also.
And then he'll have to go to the planning board meetings
Yes.
as well, right? Okay.
So are there any other questions for her? Thank you. It was very educational.
I'll work
Is
with.
this a start? This is a first discussion? I mean,
This is just talking about it right now, yeah.
Yeah, we're just talking.
There's no voting, there's no
If
decisions.
you guys wanted to, speak to Michael about the budget, when there's funds available to pursue the project, and then you would direct the planning board accordingly, you would direct me accordingly.
And this takes time.
I would,
This takes
so
some time.
the conversation started in the beginning of the year, and now we're almost, into the 4th quarter of this year. Before a lot more projects come through for approval or get presented, I think it would be good to start working on some of this.
Oh, this is just a discussion now. We can talk about that in session. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, well, you got the next 2, I think. No, we'll just finish. We might as well just finish.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next item on the agenda is what we're calling sidewalk assessments. So we have a new borough engineer this year, and we have a lot of road projects coming up that we're working on. And the topic of sidewalks and aprons came up amongst our designs of all of our road resurfacing projects. And our engineer has suggested that the governing body, maybe take another look at and/or make a decision as to whether or not we should be replacing sidewalks as part of our road resurfacing projects. The borough code obviously dictates that the sidewalks are the maintenance responsibility of the homeowner. However, when repaving a neighborhood, it becomes unsightly when you're putting down fresh asphalt and the sidewalks are all deteriorated and/or unsafe and/or cracking, etc. So there's different ways that you can replace the sidewalk with projects. One of them being we could just pay for it, which obviously becomes a large expense that I would not recommend. The other avenue to do so is to assess the homeowner with a special assessment, and they would be assessed with the improvement in front of their property for that sidewalk. So I just wanted to kind of rehash the topic.
So what happened is Mike and I and the engineers met, we got all this information, and we both said to ourselves, let's throw it to the council, see how they feel about doing this, because this is gonna come back, this is telling residents they're gonna have to pay more money, or pay more in taxes to pay it ourselves, or they just pay outright and do it without our saying. So that's why, let's have a little discussion on how you guys feel.
And I would, thank you, I just want to add, if a resident has an unsafe apron or the curb is cracking, there might be some special instances where we have to replace a section of sidewalk, or we have to replace a curb that's abutting the apron, etc. So that's why you saw some piecemealing on Lincoln Ave last year. So I think we just wanted to rehash and kind of make a final decision. Are we doing this or are we not doing this, so we can move forward?
And the
with
Lincoln
our
Avenue project was the one that's started a lot of this conversation.
Were they
Because we got
assessed?
calls. No. So what happened, and it wasn't Michael, it was a different administrator at the time, made their own judgments, yes, we'll replace these sidewalks, but didn't do it for everybody. So you have residents that are there 30 years, never got their sidewalk done. You got a resident that just moved in last year and she got a brand new sidewalk.
I walk over there.
So
I
people
see
got
it.
very angry with that, and I got lots and lots of calls over that. So we want to kind of get an idea of how we move forward with the whole thing.
I'm confused, we're sending people out to assess properties to tell people they have to fix their sidewalks?
No, so
No.
this, and I'll let Dave answer in a minute, but this is a special assessment, whereas the resident would get a special tax bill just for the improvement in front of their property, in this case, the replacement of the sidewalk. So the engineer would have to do a calculation and figure out how much each property would cost to replace the sidewalk, and then they would be special billed for that improvement in addition to their property taxes.
I mean, are the sidewalks that bad?
And I'll let Dave,
So each resident is no longer doing their own work, someone,
Correct. In this case, if the engineer is looking at the sidewalk and recommending that based on the sidewalk condition, the borough replace that sidewalk, that's, while you can, so he would include that in the project, and you would, based upon the engineer's calculation, you would assess each property owner to the extent that property has been improved with that new sidewalk. Now, let's just back up a minute. Every municipality can shift maintenance responsibilities to the property owner for the public sidewalk in front of their house. However, you are not able to shift liability for the sidewalk's condition. So if the sidewalk is in bad shape and someone trips and hurts themselves, they can sue the borough, and the borough's insurance will respond to it. And if they can meet these 5 criteria in the Tort Claims Act, that the borough had notice, actual or constructive notice of the condition, it's a dangerous condition, I was hurt as a result of the dangerous condition, they will succeed. So the courts have said you can shift maintenance responsibility to property owners, but you can't shift liability for the public sidewalk, except in one instance, which is where some action of the property owner themselves has created that condition.
lack
In
of
other words,
snow
like,
removal.
or the more typical one is the property owner plants a tree out there, and that raises, it's not a town tree, it's the property owner's tree, and it raises a slab. So just something worth thinking about, because I don't know what the condition of the sidewalk is, but you as the municipality need to be concerned about its condition, because ultimately you're responsible, you're legally responsible in the event someone's injured as a result of it.
So this is a big deal. I'm just going to tell you, this is a big deal because a lot of the sidewalks in Pompton are very old and in bad shape. A lot of them are pulling up, a lot of them are breaking apart, a lot of them are not even there anymore. So if we decide to assess, I'm guessing there'll be some angry residents. They don't want to pay it. Okay? We can't afford to do all the sidewalks ourselves. It would just be too much money. So we have to kind of talk about it a little bit.
And how would this assessment work? Because what if someone can't afford it? I mean, you do have older residents who are on fixed incomes, and that's, we're talking a lot of money, depending on the size of their property.
absolutely. You see this a lot with sewer projects. So if a municipality was putting in a sewer line, unfortunately, those residents would be assessed for the improvement cost. And it's the same case here. But again, I thought the engineer and I just wanted to rehash the topic and kind of get a feeling as to if it's even something that we would consider.
Yeah, so what does everybody think about that?
Not right now, I need a lot more information, I'm not gonna.
So,
right now.
there's a couple things.
I'd like to see
As much as it would have been, Lincoln Avenue fully paved with brand new sidewalks lining the entire length would have been nice, and same thing with Dawes and Maple. There's there's what a road actually serves as, and there's what a sidewalk actually serves as. And getting away from, well, the road looks really good, or the sidewalk really looks really good, brand new and everything like that, that's the aesthetics. But a road is supposed to function a certain way, a sidewalk's supposed to function a certain way. So unless the sidewalks are in such abhorrent condition that they actually do represent a hazard, I don't think we should be carte blanche replacing the entire length of a sidewalk and then assessing the property.
Well, that's my first question. What determines whether or not, is it just like a little crack, so now we have to fix it, or is it like?
Well, I mean, it sounds like this would be like full on, all sidewalks get replaced. I don't think that's a good idea,
Oh,
because
no, I
I just
think
think that it puts a burden on the homeowner for a sidewalk that otherwise is fully functional, just because we're happen to be going through and paving.
And I agree
Now,
with that,
if
but it's the other side.
if it's a situation where, you know, I could go to the code maintenance officer and say, this sidewalk's not the code, it's a tripping hazard, there's things like that, then that becomes the opportunity, I think, at that point to say, okay, in the field, we do need to make this sidewalk replacement. We are going to place a special assessment on the homeowner because they're going to have to do it anyway. So we're probably saving them money by doing it, by having a contractor without having a mobilization fee and everything else, rather than putting it on the homeowner, finding them, giving them notice of violation, and then forcing them to go find it.
So where we see it a lot, just so everybody knows, when someone goes to sell their home, they gotta get a CO from the building department. The building department goes there and says, your sidewalks are a mess, you need to repair your sidewalks. They didn't even think about sidewalks until somebody got there and said, your sidewalks are a mess. So I do agree with what Eric's saying. I mean, that's a good compromise in the fact that if they're in bad shape, they have to be fixed. It's a danger. We're gonna get sued if
Well,
they're not
what's in
fixed.
place now? Is if there's a sidewalk that's, you know, like a 6-inch gap and it's like a giant step.
We notice the property owner.
And then, then there's
And they're supposed
enforcement.
to, and then they're supposed to fix it,
Or they're
otherwise they're
fined.
subject to fines.
Okay, so there is enforcement, so can't we just send someone from our building department out to do
Well,
a scan of the town and start noticing people that are?
We could, but what Eric is saying is we have our team there already. It's gonna save us and them money if they decide they wanna do it now, because that's part of the group being here. To send it out separately is gonna cost more money.
Does this cost us more money
by
No.
doing it which way? Just doing it this
than
way?
using our own people, the way we do it now? Or by having someone come out
I mean,
and do an
that, I
assessment?
mean, you're,
and-
in my opinion, with our building department, we have limited hours to go and scan the town for sidewalks. So we're basically.
Reactive.
We're reactive to complaints, we're reactive to people saying, I tripped on the sidewalk, things like that. At the very least, I mean, we still should be doing that in some respects, but as a project-by-project basis, when we're repaving the roadway, I think we do have the opportunity to address any problematic areas at that project location. But I don't think we should do the whole sidewalk.
Okay, so at the project location, not
Yes.
someone out going out to the whole town?
No, we're not saying, okay, now we're gonna hit every spot in town.
How does everybody else feel
And
about
we're
this?
gonna do it.
I'm good with what Councilman.
What's that?
I'm good with what Councilman Lyons proposed.
Guys?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I agree with Councilman Kilburg, the only concern, Councilwoman Kilburg. The only thing is the pricing, obviously, for some of those that are on fixed income.
But either way, they're gonna have to, if it's a bad enough sidewalk, fixed income or not, they gotta fix it.
I mean,
No,
I'll be
but-
honest with you, they probably won't. And
But they're
if
gonna
it's,
get fined.
if it's, they are, but the fine is generally probably cheaper, and I can tell you right now,
No,
if it's been there 10 years, 15 years already, they haven't done anything, I guarantee you, they're not gonna do it anymore.
Here's the
after
problem,
that.
and I agree with you, but the problem is they haven't been fined, so those fines escalate as time goes on. They could be up to $1,000 if they don't.
And I agree, but I
I'm
think,
still
you know,
confused.
it should be taken case by case. It
Yeah,
has to
I'm
be
not
case
sure
by
we
case
should be.
basis. We have to look at it. We have to look at the homeowner's position, where they are. If they're 80 years old, 85, whatever, and they're on a fixed income and can clearly not
I don't
afford
agree
a
with
fine.
that. I don't agree with that, because they're on a fixed income now, and then they sell their house, and then a new property owner comes in.
They're not gonna sell
and
it.
25, a young couple, and now they've got a sidewalk that should have been
Well,
replaced because we felt bad about it.
All we're talking
They have a
about
lot
now
of
is
years to work. They
hypotheticals.
can-
These are all
I know,
hypotheticals.
that's why you, that's
These
why
are
you have to
all,
consider
these
the
are all
condition.
hypotheticals. All I'm saying is that in those considerations, we need to take that.
I think
We
you have
need
to
to
take
take that
condition of the
consideration.
property
Doing
as
nothing
is.
We
right
do.
now, not
At the point
All
when
these
they're
other
selling it,
acts
they're
are
gonna be made well aware at the point of them selling
They
it.
won't
If they
get a CO,
are,
right?
their
We're
house is
doing the whole-
probably paid off by then. So yeah, they're probably gonna sell their house, they're probably not gonna.
Are
have
we
it.
paving, we're repaving the whole length of
Nothing
Dawes
right now?
Highway?
And like.
I mean, so
anything
can we
else?
just go, I mean, can I just go out? I want to see it. I want to see what we're talking about. Like, I want to
I
go
know-
look
I
at the
know what-
sidewalk.
So I know a good
They're
example
talking
is when
about. I
there's
know
a
what they're
sidewalk this
talking
high,
about.
okay, and somebody's walking with their small child, they trip over that sidewalk, they get hurt, they break their arm, they sue us.
But I want to see
No, no,
how
I
many
do-
of them
I
are
do-
like that. Like, I want to go see. I want to go see how many sidewalks
There's
are
a
like
lot.
that.
There's a
No,
lot.
there's a lot. There's
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
If you walk on the sidewalk.
We're only talking about
There's
during the
not-
road project.
Yeah, they're only
Right.
talking about during road projects.
So we're not talking
It's
about.
not about let's go assist
No,
the
no,
whole
I know
town.
that. So we're talking about the whole length of Dawes Highway.
No, no,
No.
no. So an
No.
example, say they're gonna pave, my street, West Lennox, okay? And my sidewalk's fine, it stays. The next sidewalk is torn up, they're gonna be assessed now, what Eric is suggesting, because their sidewalk's a mess, and they got the team there already to fix them.
Yes.
Okay, but we, the borough, need to put the money out first. We have to put the money up
Yes.
front and,
Yes.
and hope that they actually pay us back
So then we
in a
have
timely fashion.
A street that
That's
might
another
have
problem.
bad sidewalk, good sidewalk, bad, bad, good, and now fix, not fix, fix, not, in the end, doesn't
But
it
there's,
get
but again,
worse?
it's, you're looking at fixed as new. If there's nothing wrong with a sidewalk, it doesn't need to be fixed, so it doesn't need to be new.
I guess it's gonna come down to
But
how
if
do we,
there's
what's
three that
classified?
Need to be fixed.
There's a
Bad
height,
sidewalk.
Then
there's
they
actually a
fix it.
height
Then fix
But
it.
then does it
requirement.
look like brand new,
It's an inch and a half.
old, brand
It's
new?
an
old?
inch
No, no, but I'm saying, going to Eric's point,
Who cares?
Doesn't that look worse?
No, who cares what it looks like? That's my point. Who cares what it looks like?
Well, just the color of
The function of a sidewalk is to be able to walk on a sidewalk.
So our attorney is
If you
telling me,
walk on a
Not trip.
sidewalk-
our
And
attorney's
not
telling me
trip.
it's an inch and a half height.
Inch
you
and a
know,
half is the-
what I'm saying
kind
is,
of the-
from Councilman DeLine, is that, yes, you know, what constitutes a replacement, it has to be in really bad shape. We're not talking about minor cracks,
Has to be
that
out of
we're
code.
gonna go out
Has to be
there.
out of code.
No.
Has to be out of code. So what I see is most of them that I see in town are not out of code. They're, and those are not the ones we've been talking about replacing. This is only gonna be part of a road project, a road resurfacing project.
Eventually, all the
And
roads
they're
are gonna
gonna
be
be there
subject to this.
evaluating, obviously, the sidewalks. All I'm saying is that if it does turn out that during that road project, wherever that is, and you're gonna find these owners, and they're gonna look at this, and they're gonna have no idea what this is.
Yeah, they're gonna be mad.
Well, do you have an
Well,
option
any
to
idea of
hire
what
your
this
own
is?
You
person?
do, you can hire your
What
own.
if you assess me and my cousin does sidewalks and he's not gonna charge me? Why do I have to pay all this extra money if I have someone in my?
You wanna give them the option?
If we're assessing, we have to put up the money and it would be part of the overall project.
No, but what she's saying is, could you give them the option? They do it or we do it, one or the other.
It becomes a timeline issue, because
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
you're
it's a
negotiating with people, it could delay a project.
You gotta attend
Everybody
the
knows
to
something,
that.
like, if I know someone in my family's gonna do this for free, you're making me pay for something.
Well,
Then they should have done it.
My
should've done
biggest
first.
issue is
Yeah.
putting the money, my
They
largest
should've
issue
done
with
it
this
already. They
is
should've
putting
done
the money out up front, because that's, you're talking a lot of people.
Well,
It's
so
not gonna-
understand how a road job works. We put a lot of money out front.
No, I
And then
understand
we
that,
get
but
all
if we're
the
now
back.
putting it for sidewalks as well.
It's
and-
a small
and-
fraction of what a road job, how much is a road job like Lincoln? Million.
Lincoln Ave, 900,000.
Yeah, so, you know, with sidewalks would be, you know, 50,000,
Alright.
60,000.
I mean, I understand. I mean, like I said, I think it's just. that's-
So we're just trying to get a feeling of
No,
what
I'm a
people.
no.
All right, we'll start with Eck on the back.
I'm-
What do you think?
What's the cost of a sidewalk for a 50 by?
I couldn't tell you that.
I don't know.
I would
enough
tell you that the
information.
average 75-foot width lot is about $3,000. Then that's from our borough engineer.
Is there an opportunity that we split the cost or offer a case-by-case basis? If it comes
No,
down
you
to
can't,
it?
you can't start saying, we'll do yours or not yours.
That's a
not
big
gonna work.
expense for the borough.
Yeah, I think what's gonna end up happening is that once we do encounter the very first residents that are gonna receive a bill, cause it's out of code, it's gonna, you know.
But it's
because-
happening now, that happens right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, but now it's gonna be part of the road
It
servicing
is.
project, like, it's not whether or not they just
Well,
have to
No, but
randomly
it's a benefit
inspect.
to them now.
Oh, it is a benefit, but I'm saying if they haven't gone to the point, if they haven't paid for it already, and again, I don't know the dollar amount, they're gonna have to pay for it now where they weren't planning on it. And they're gonna receive, a bill from the borough. This is what happens. We have a handful of people here, maybe a portion are gonna watch this video. 98% of the town are not gonna have any
Of
inkling of
course.
this. And this is gonna be a very big surprise,
It
very
is.
upset residents. I'm not saying no, I do understand why we need to do that. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I think we need to figure out a way either to communicate this or figure out a way on a case-by-case basis that nobody wants to hear, right? But it's unique situation.
So
Everybody's in unique
going to your
situations.
point, Bobby, I get lots of calls just by what you're saying. I'm selling my house, nothing wrong. Inspector came out, he won't give me a CO because my sidewalk's no good. They're telling me I have to replace the sidewalk. And they're yelling at me. And I said, look, I don't run the building department. You gotta follow what they say. So, I'm thinking in the back of their mind, they know they have a bad sidewalk, they just
Oh, of
ignored
course.
it. They just said, I don't really care.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But you guys decide, I mean, that's why I didn't make a decision.
I'm gonna go on the whole sales, give everybody.
Yeah, we're not doing everybody's.
I don't have a sidewalk, and I don't want a sidewalk.
Well, you're lucky.
I am lucky, but if I'm looking at the townhouses, they need sidewalks, and they need sidewalks up on the townhouses.
Well, we pay for our own sidewalks.
Yeah, okay, so you pay for your own sidewalk, but
I'm enough.
it's, to me, the homeowner's responsible for their sidewalk. Whether if they're putting a road in, it's got nothing, Eric says, it's got nothing to do with your sidewalk, your road. Maybe the only question I would have is, and people would question the curbing.
Curbing is ours.
The curbing is ours. Okay, so I know that comes up a lot, because a lot of the curbs are cracked.
So my own curbing in front of my house is lifted 5-6 inches
Yeah.
from the tree that's there.
Right.
Okay, when they do my road, whatever that's gonna be, they'll.
That's ours now. No, I don't think that we should get into the business of sidewalk replacement. I don't wanna see that.
So what does that mean? You don't want them to do it when they do a road job and just do it on their own?
Just do it on your own.
However it is now.
Just keep it, yes.
You guys?
I'm a yes as on an as-needed basis.
I'm not okay with, no.
All right, you got your answer, seems like a no.
So just for clarification, moving forward, we will replace absolutely no sidewalks as part of any road job.
Is that what we're saying, right?
Yep.
I didn't mean to spur a debate, but our engineer was asking me, because we're under a time frame issue with Dawes Highway, and he needs to present his proposal to me, and he was asking, am I including sidewalks, am I including on an as-needed basis? And really, it's not my authority to make that decision.
So let me ask you this, because you've been in a couple of towns, what are a couple other towns doing? What do you know that they do?
I know for a fact that Bloomingdale and Butler do replace all the sidewalks and assess all the property owners. That, I haven't looked at any other towns, but we could certainly bring it up again in the future, but for this project in the near future, we will not include sidewalks.
All right, just keep in mind, that doesn't mean if an inspector goes out and sees your sidewalk is bad,
Oh, of course.
he's gonna write a ticket and you're gonna fix it or you're gonna fine him. It's still gonna happen.
Yes.
If somebody is trying to budget for something and they know they're selling their house in 3 years and they have to replace their sidewalks and they're trying to, they're budgeting for it, they're ready to take this on, and now we go through this project and now we slap them with this and all of a sudden they weren't ready for it, they didn't. I mean, I don't know, I don't wanna.
All right, let's move on. Park permits, is this easier, I hope?
Thank you, Mayor. The clerk's office is in receipt of a park permit from the Pompton Lakes High School Board of Education. The board and the volunteer group that submitted the application requested two things of this governing body to potentially consider, given last year this governing body adopted the new park permit requirements. So the first thing that was requested from the Board of Ed is that all Board of Ed sponsored events, the park permit fee would be waived. The borough attorney has weighed in and classified the Board of Ed under the municipal family, so that they would be eligible for the waiver. However, this may lead to issues with other nonprofit groups requesting the same consideration. So we just have to take that into account here. And then the other change that we would present in an ordinance is to grant a certificate of insurance that's valid for 1 year for the group. So for instance, the Board of Education takes out 10 permits per year. As written, they have to get 10 certificate of insurances for each event that they take out the permit for. The amendment for consideration would be a blanket certificate valid for the whole year. So we just wanted to present those two options
Well,
to
there
the
is one
governing
other
body.
piece that we're talking about. There are also groups that want to use our properties that are not. So where do they fall into this whole premise? You know,
They pay their fees and they provide
I would
their
think right off the
insurance.
top,
They
we're saying
pay
they're paying out of town, right?
Yeah, out of town.
I
No
thought
matter what
unless
group.
it was
No matter
educational.
what group it is.
Even if it's a
Matter-
Boy Scout troop from Wayne,
Okay.
you know, we're
Doesn't
saying
matter.
they're
It's
out,
not
they're
me. They pay
paying.
their fee, they provide their
Okay.
insurance.
And, sorry, just to add really quick, the ordinance states right now that borough-sponsored events are exempt from the fee. Which they should.
All right, so now we're talking about in-town groups that want to use some of the.
Well, they're in town, so I would think they're considered residents.
I don't think we should put an insurance waiver on certain nonprofit groups that support the town at all. So what are we're talking about? We're talking about like Women's Club, Rotary,
The
Elks.
fee waiver, I don't think You're just talking about the fee waiver,
Correct.
not the insurance waiver.
The first item was the fee waiver.
Yeah, the fee waiver.
Right, so I
And
think
then
we're all
one
good with the
blanket
fee waiver,
So what
right?
about like the Girl Scouts, obviously?
Yeah, they would be
Tell
more
them
than-
Yeah.
I thought we were-
Here's the problem with that, and I agree, and I'm agreeing with what we want to do, but there's got to be a line drawn of what
Okay.
group considers a fee waiver as a boat club that has boats on the lake.
No, I thought you said not like a 501c3.
Is that how we're selling it, as a
Well-
501c?
That's what I'm bringing forth to you.
Well, I thought it would be
Okay.
anyone that's in, so like, if you said the Elks are, it's in Pompton Lake, so I would think that they wouldn't have to pay for it.
But boat club is not a nonprofit. We're talking about your.
Well, I'm not, I don't even know who has a boat club. I didn't even know
I
there
just
was a
used that
boat
example,
club.
but yeah, so a 501c is
mentioned the
fine.
boat club.
The 501c is fine if we're gonna use that as the judge. But anything that doesn't have a 501c, but is a nonprofit group in town, I mean, a volunteer group in town, would theoretically have to pay.
Like who?
So would the
Girl
Elks
Scouts.
have, the Elks
I
have,
don't know.
is that a
They are a nonprofit, but they stay on their own property. I don't foresee that being an issue.
So that means the Girl Scouts would have to
They
pay?
do their
Yeah,
events
that's
in
what I'm
on
saying.
their property.
They're not.
But like. the
Yeah, but they live in
VFW
town. Those people live in town. I thought if you were a resident of the town.
According to what we're saying, they'd have to be a nonprofit.
But I
What
thought
about-
in the
what about
ordinance it said if you're a
religious,
resident of town, you didn't have to
Religion.
pay.
I don't believe so.
Oh.
They are?
So that's what I'm trying to get at. There are groups that are not gonna fall under that category.
Yes.
Girl Scout, Boy Scouts being one of them,
Oh, gosh.
by the way.
Yes, but those are also, I mean, the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
But we can't, I
I
mean,
know, but it puts us in a pickle
Right,
because,
it does.
you know, the exception of one,
can't make it
Mhm.
accept.
you know,
I believe the suggestion from the borough attorney is to not grant any further waivers and to include the Board of Ed under the municipal family.
Yeah,
So
that's the
just
easiest.
for, what about like fire, first aid?
Well, they're town.
They're borough sponsored.
Can we,
That falls
on an independent basis, when the city Girl Scouts come in, this council can waive it.
Yeah.
So we
then
could do
that's
that,
fine.
right?
But
Yes, however, now you're opening up a
Yeah,
can of
you're-
worms.
you're-
The
yeah.
next group's gonna say,
Yeah,
well, I want to
you
waive
Well, I
it.
get
my fee.
why do they get it? I don't.
Yeah, that doesn't seem
I'd say it's a bright line rule.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw out there, you know, like, I'm just picking on the Girl Scouts do a lot of events.
They do.
They
do.
You're gonna charge
Scouts are in.
each time?
Scouts are in.
That's what we're saying, by the way.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Scouts are in what does that mean?
I mean, it's waived.
No, you can't. You just can't pick.
Well, then why are we waiving
Right.
it for PLOIO?
Right, that's exactly right.
PLOA has their own
Yeah,
space.
you can't.
They
pick
could
and
use
choose.
other, they might need it for other
Scouts
reasons.
don't have that.
What do we do with the Scouts now for like, when they use the first field for the fall festival and they take the
They
whole
pay.
park? They've been paying every year.
They pay?
Well, how much?
How
are we
much is
talking
it?
about?
How much is it?
We're talking $25 an hour.
An hour?
Depends on how many people.
Yes, there's a tiered structure in the code.
What's the maximum for a 4-hour event?
125 for an out-of-town business.
120, what's the maximum for a 4-hour event for in-town?
For in-town, $45.
Okay. What did you say? Only for municipal?
Only for, yeah, borough.
I'm gonna go with the attorney on this one.
And that's our suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody comments on it? That
Bright line rule, so it's
Yeah.
just the best way to.
It is, you can't pick and choose one or the other. That's
No.
the point.
I'm picking choosing.
No, I can't do that. Okay.
I'm good. Same.
Yeah, I'm going with the attorney's.
I'm gonna.
All right, so you got your answer.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to confirm, we'll have an ordinance amending the park permit ordinance to include a certificate of insurance that's valid for a year. So that would be the one change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's go back to the agenda. Under my report, we'll start with Pompton Day, another huge success, very nice turnout. I got to thank Karen Murphy and her family, Mike Shacatano, Steve Big, Bernadette, Dan Black, Lisa right here who was on the rec as the liaison. You know, these are people that went to the meetings every week and really put it together. It was a nice event. We sold out every spot. We had the most food vendors we've ever had at 35, and all the food vendors were pretty happy at the end of the day of what came out of it. The fireworks were outstanding. I had a lot of compliments, a lot of people coming up to me saying, I can't believe how long the fireworks lasted, and they did a great job. You know, I happened to see the mayor of Oakland there, and he was there talking to me. He said, you guys really do a nice festival. And let's remember, it's all done by volunteers. Nobody's paid to put the Pompton Day together. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And, you all got a copy of what was made and lost. So we made some money for recreation, which is a good thing. And at the end of the day, it's a nice event. So thank you to everybody involved. Thank you to all the volunteers. I'm not going to name them. Our fire department was there all day, police, OEM, everybody was there helping out. We had no issues. We had no disputes. We had no fights. The police weren't involved in anything. So it was all in all, except for a little rain in the very beginning, it was all in all a great day. I attended the VFW golf outing yesterday, always a fun event. I attended a shade tree meeting that we discussed the new ordinances that we're putting in place about on-property trees, and I think there was some good conversation there. I think we worked out our situations, and we were with the arborist who has a good grip on what he has to do. He's done this in other towns. We'll see how this goes. Again, going back to like Bobby said, this is a learning curve. People are not going to be happy with this ordinance. Let me just tell you that. So we're going to have to get it out there, get an education, and get it out there. Oh, did we? Had our first application. Look at that. We had a meeting about the radio station. I think more will follow with that in the next month. I did a couple weddings. We had a couple meetings about some personnel changes in the police department and the DPW. Unfortunately, like I mentioned in the beginning, we lost a young DPW employee. I think he was only 24 or 25. He had an accident. It's sad to see such a young man in his prime of life, pulled like that. And that is my report. Council President Thorne.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate your comments on Pompton Day. Thank you to all the volunteers that show up, our vendors, our public works that are there, our police that are there. Pompton Day is sort of the unofficial end to the summer and the beginning of the school year. It's always funny to walk up and down the street and you run into your neighbors. It's like you haven't seen in months because everybody's been running around for summer. So it's a really great day. I love Pompton Day, and every year it just feels like a great day. Thank you to Liz, I know especially, and to our fire department for the 9/11 ceremony. Again, it's important that we do this every single year. It was funny because Serena came with me, and we were talking about it. She's like, oh, I don't know if I want to go. I was like, you should go. It's a day of remembrance. Except for younger generations, it's not a day of remembrance. Well, and I made the point actually, for her, it's a history lesson, but it is a day of remembrance in the collective identity of being an American. And I made that point of saying you might not have been alive, but part of who you are as an American is recognizing the importance of this day. So as long as we continue to recognize this day and the importance of the day and how it affects us going forward, I think that is remembering what it is to be an American. And I thank the borough and everybody that puts together this important ceremony. No matter if it seems like one year there's less people showing up than there has been, but the importance of it still maintains. Last month I attended the planning board. There was one application from Viola Water, which is on Legion Street. They were doing upgrades to their pump system on the exterior. That was unanimously approved by the planning board. The regularly scheduled meeting for the planning board on September 17th has been canceled, so they won't be meeting until October. The MUA had their meeting last month. I just want to let people know that the fall hydrant flushing program will begin on Monday, September 23rd. Hydrant flushing will be performed during the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. to cause the least inconvenience to our customers. It should be noted that customers may experience a temporary discoloration in their water or a drop in water pressure during the program. Again, as I've mentioned before, if you turn on your water following the hydrant flushing that comes out discolored, just run the cold water for a little bit, it should clear up. And then at the MUA meeting, the superintendent just went through a number of projects that they are doing. They're looking at aeration, upgrading their aeration system. They're performing a treatment plant evaluation, and then they have to develop a water asset management plan update. All of those have started, and there are a number of projects that they have through the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, looking at projects going full capital projects in the future, including a water main upgrade on Ringwood Avenue, a water main upgrade on Pompton Avenue and Hemlock Avenue, and then replacing the North Pump Station. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And again, I forgot to thank Liz and the office staff for the 9/11 ceremony. They put it together every year. They do a great job. They contact everybody, so thank you for reminding me. Thank you, Liz, for everything you did with that. Councilwoman Paul Dory.
Thank you. Congratulations to Detective Forte. Thank you, Liz. I saw you running around. It's amazing every year. Really is. Thank you. I like the poem this year too. Pompton Day was a huge success, so thank you to everyone that worked so hard to put that together. Right before Pompton Day, the Elks held a carnival this year, which was really well received by the town, very busy. And I do want to take a minute to give a special thank you to Councilman Cruz for volunteering an hour of his time. Councilman Cruz sat in the dunk tank at the Elks Carnival, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was wrinkled when I left.
Were you?
Oh, yes.
Did you get dunked a lot?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. Thank you. And then also the Elks asked if I would just let everyone know that they are having, and I'm going to share this with the coalition also as the parent liaison. I have some things to give you for them too. They are starting to get really involved with their drug programs. They're saying no to drug programs. They have some essays coming out for the schools, but they do have a walk coming up that they've invited us to. So maybe we can get the coalition on board with this. November 3rd at 10 o'clock at the Elks, they do a Elks walkout on drugs.
Is that your only copy?
I'll give it to you. I can get a bunch more. And then I'll share it online too.
Okay, perfect.
I have more information in the car for you. There's some other things coming up. I attended the bid meeting, I signed the bills, and DPW has a reminder that on the 10th on the south side and the 11th on the north side of October, leaf and brush pickup will begin for the fall. I'm gonna wait for the borough administrator's report, but I have some questions about these notice violations that came through. And one request of Liz that I would like to make. Can we change the format of the agenda packets? Is it possible for you to, a few of us were talking, instead of scrolling through, hundreds of papers, can we break it out into separate PDFs? The bills are one PDF, and then the agenda, the resolutions and the supporting documents are one. The borough administrator's report is already a separate one. And then the minutes also, so that we can just kind of open the attachment that we need instead of scrolling through it. Does that make it easier for you?
Yes.
It does. All right, so I don't want to make it harder for you. If it's easier, it's certainly easier for a few of us.
I'll share, you tell me which you want to get.
Is that what we
Yes,
said?
it
With
makes
5
sense.
different attachments then?
So when
Bobby,
I'm
are
looking
you
for
good
one
with-
thing, I don't
Yep.
have to
Or
look
does
for
that
300.
work?
I'm good with that.
Just click on minutes instead of, what page was that? 140? Thank you.
I'll get his email one.
Okay.
And I'll try it and we can adjust it however you want.
As long as it's
Okay.
easier for you.
Sounds good.
Okay, then that is my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bennett.
I have no report, Mayor, thank you.
You have no report. Councilman Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Board of Adjustments meeting on August 27th. Very short report for them. They just had one resolution, BOA 2404 for Tilcon, New York. The purpose for this was to, proposed building was to enable the maintenance of certain electrical equipment inside a building and protect it from the elements. This is going to be 1,600 square foot electrical barn accessory structure along the Interstate 27 South Frontage. And that was approved by the board. And that's the only item that I have for the Board of Adjustments.
Could you just pass on to the board, thank them for all the help they gave us at the property.
Oh, absolutely.
They really were helpful, bathrooms and water and janitors and.
The next is for the Board of Health. Unfortunately, I had a prior commitment, I could not attend, but they did send a few items to discuss here during the meeting. They had 2024 food licenses were approved by Kate's by Is and Suburban Sequoia. And new business, they have resolution 2422 accepting the resignation of Janice Deavy from the Borough of Pompton Lakes Board of Health effective December 31st, 2024. And that also applies to Greg Smith, who also submitted his letter of resignation. So there will be 2 positions that are open with the Board of Health. And let's see, and from the correspondence, several anonymous complaints regarding roosters and chickens. So.
That they're in favor of roosters and chickens?
No, not at all. It looks like the roosters were removed. I'm not going to mention obviously the address. And the anonymous complaint stated that the chickens were attracting rats.
So that was to the health department?
That was it.
Okay.
That's for the health department. So the roosters were removed, but I think it's still on valid checkers at this point. And finally, the last one is going to be for the Board of Education that I attended yesterday. The Board of Education, this is really cool. So they accepted a grant for the Unified Champions Grant in the amount of $4,000 from Special Olympics, and that's going to be utilized at the Pompton High School. Back to school night, it's going to happen September 12th for Lakeside, which is a Thursday, September 19th for Lincoln, and September 18th for Lenox. The school also received a computer science grant for a new program called esports. Now, you would think I was involved in technology, I would know what this is, right? So this is all about gaming, against enhancing the computer science program by applying theory and practice in the area of computer programming towards game design. So this is awesome, of course, just because I love technology. The grant was also used to fund a trip to Bank of America in New York City for the Girls Who Code. Again, this is also leaning towards computer science as well. And let's see, so the last item that I have, just because I'm pretty sure everybody's been curious, is all the work that's being done at Lakeside in the front, obviously, the front entrance. So that's in preparation for the vestibules that are going to be going out to bid this month, and you're going to see that across all the schools. The camera systems are up and operational, the new ones at Lakeside. I think if you guys have not noticed, they're on the very corner, they're very big. So those are the new ones, and the communication systems, from my understanding, are also up and running. The rest of the schools are still pending, so to complete those projects. And you're my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kent.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My deepest sympathies to the DPW, Sean McClinton's family. That was a very tragic loss. He was a very nice young man, and I'm very sad to hear that. I was away, but my deepest sympathies on that. I was away for a couple weeks on vacation, but I did get a phone call from Michael, our administrator, Michael Corelli, and from the police department regarding a rescue on Pompton Lakes of one of our contractors that actually treats the lake. Evidently, he's been out there many, many times, but this time the lake was very low, and his boat got caught on some kind of a structure that there was some type of a bridge abutment that was buried, and he didn't know, and he really could not get his boat off, so we had to jump off, and they had to save him, and then they had to go back the next day, and they actually got very hard, but they got the boat, the vendor's boat out with our new rescue equipment. Now, way back, there were some issues, I know, and people complained about the cost of this type of equipment, rescue equipment, but I have to say, I mean, if all you need is to save one life, that's all you need, and that just pays for itself. So I want to thank the police department and the patrolman that did rescue and get the boat off. That was a big deal, and I want to thank our rescue squad on that. I also want to thank Liz on the 9/11 ceremony. It always brings tears to my eyes, and we need to do that every year, Mayor. I will support that every year. I wasn't here for the Pompton Day, but looking at all the pictures, it looked like an amazing event, and kudos to the Pompton Day committee. They did a great job again. And congratulations to Peter Fort for his promotion. He's a very nice young man. I've known him for years, since he was a kid, and these are the kind of folks that we want to keep in our police department. Shade Tree Commission also met, and I know they're ready and willing to continue on with their program with tree pruning and removal when required. Okay, so we've been very busy. We've been very busy with that. Any questions on the applications for the private properties should go to Liz if there's any questions on that, because that is going to be a whole other issue. And one of my new pet projects, which I was told tonight, that the PBA has agreed to remove the old ugly soda machine that's been broken for 2 years, and they were going to take that away, and I even believe they might help us with paying for some of the display case that we're looking to purchase. So I can't tell you how happy I am that there's such cooperation on this, and it'll look beautiful when we're done. And the front vestibule of the municipal building will look much nicer. And the police will have an appropriate display case for their trophies. So I'm very happy to report that. They said they're gonna work, hopefully they're gonna get this thing done in a month or so. They just need somebody to move this big old machine.
Can we get the DPW to help with that?
Okay, so I'll let Derek know. And that was my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kilburg.
Okay, I'm gonna start by doing my motions,
Okay.
because I'm gonna apologize ahead of time, I have a lot to say. Okay, I make a motion to approve, let's see, to hold the 25th Annual Classic Car Show and close Wanacue Ave from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Street closure between Pompton and Lakeside Ave. Police, fire, first aid to be notified on the following request.
Okay, they don't have a date on that, though. Why is there no date on that?
I think it's October, no, is it October 13th, is that?
The car show?
Liz,
Yeah.
do you know if there's a date on that?
Yes.
Oh, through, no,
We actually have to get permission from the county.
well, there's a whole,
13th.
I just put it on here, but
I think
they're
it's the
actually
13th.
close the road is coming from the county.
All right, so
Okay.
we'll keep it as a motion?
and there is a whole bunch of, that all go for the same thing.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
read
the
them all.
Chamber of Commerce to contact Police Department and St. Mary's Church to coordinate traffic control. Certificate of insurance to be provided to the borough. To hang a banner on Wanacue Ave advertising the 25th Annual Classic Car Show from September 15th, 2024 through October 22nd, 2024. Contact the Passaic County Engineering Department. For permission to use the Pond Hold parking lot during the 25th Annual Classic Car Show.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay.
I have more. Okay, a motion to approve the request to waive borough application fees for the Lakedale Girl Scouts for the use of Hirschfield Park on September 20th, 2024 and October 27th, 2024.
Oh, this is interesting, Mayor.
Talk about-
Yes.
So we said, no.
I said no.
We've said no.
We've said no.
Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
I believe that this specific example was through the Board of Education and that it did fall under the umbrella of the municipal family.
No?
Perfect,
Well,
sold me.
how-
Sold me, I'm in.
Sold me. That's good.
Wait,
Okay.
can you explain that? I'm
Remember-
just asking,
Remember you
will,
mentioned earlier about.
will our Girl Scouts then fall under
This
the
is-
Board of Education?
This is the, like, what is this?
It's our Girl Scouts, yeah. Lakeside Girl Scouts.
I could be
No
misunderstanding and I'll defer to Liz, but I believe that this was the high school band.
No.
That's the fall
Okay.
festival.
Okay, so separate instance, thank you.
So
You
if
guys
this,
said no scouts.
okay, so my question is, if the Scouts are a part of school, right? Their events are held at
They're
school,
not.
they're
They're
not?
not.
They're not.
They're not a part of this. They're separate.
You're not
organizations.
helping me.
I understand, this is why I brought it all
Be
up.
careful
We have
here,
to be
'cause we just had a whole
I mean,
conversation.
let's be honest. Okay, hang on. And I know that there's the discussion. We passed this ordinance last year, okay? The only person that can say that they weren't fully aware that we were going to charge groups, including nonprofits, is Lisa. We all saw this ordinance. We all voted in favor of it, okay? Now we have to implement it. That's it.
That's it. That's what it is.
Well, I-
It's unfortunate, but that's what it is.
So we're not doing
We're
it?
not.
No, we are not.
No.
So, you made a, can I have a second? So there would be no second on this, I don't think, unless somebody wants to make a second.
I ain't making a second.
Okay, now I gotta do a roll call, please,
Wait a minute, what are we doing, roll call?
for the Girl Scouts waiving of the fee. But we already decided that we're not doing that.
No, because it's been moved and seconded.
So what about the Boy Scouts?
All of them.
All of them.
You guys voted,
I
no,
don't know.
This is-
I'm not okay with that.
Contrary to
I'm
the
just, I have a hard
ordinance
time
that
with
you
that, because they're a group that's in tennis.
Yeah, but they're not
Gives me
a
a hard time with it.
nonprofit, and we just said,
Right, so you're
Yeah,
gonna-
no, we were touched that.
I can't say that.
right.
I'm a yes on that.
All right,
Based
start,
on our
go ahead,
earlier
Liz, go ahead.
conversation.
What, just tell me what I'm voting on.
You're
again.
voting to waive the fee for the Girl Scouts after you voted not to waive fees for any nonprofit. That's not a 401c.
That's because that's what our attorney recommended.
Correct.
Okay. Well, oh my goodness. I'm not
Yeah,
ready
but
for the
is
first
this
one.
done through the Board of Ed, Michael?
No,
It's
this was a
not.
separate
No,
issue.
Okay, that's a separate issue? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want the Girl Scouts to pay. I mean, I know we just did, but I'm not happy about that.
I'm not happy about
You
it.
gotta vote. It's a roll
It's
call.
$45.
It's a case-by-case basis.
That's what I said. You said we can't do that. Why
No.
can't we do case by case?
I mean, I understand that. Why we,
Well, you bring it into,
I know.
yeah. Great waters.
Can we
Ben,
pay,
you're
can we pay
first.
them back?
It's more than $45.
Correct.
Oh, okay, what's the price we're looking at here?
Yes.
Is this
Because
what we
I got
want to do?
more
We said
Every single time?
Is
$45.
it $40
Are we
per
doing this
hour?
every single time? Because then we can just go back and change the ordinance we've
hour?
already voted on.
Why, yeah, I think maybe we should revisit the ordinance, but,
Well,
oh, go
we can't
ahead.
right now because we're in, unless
No,
we.
all right, you have to vote.
Table, someone tables this right now.
Maria, you have to vote so we can.
You have to
vote.
use logic.
Yes or no? Yes, you waive, or no, you don't?
No,
You're voting no, to not waive for the Girl Scouts.
No, to-
Hundreds of dollars.
to waive. So
So that's.
So
That's a
you're-
yes. Oh, that's what I'm saying. How do we,
I'm voting no, and not because of the Girl Scouts, but because we just passed an ordinance. It's a complete
You gotta
contradiction.
pay for your iPhone somehow, Councilwoman.
So that's
Yeah,
unnecessary.
okay.
We passed an ordinance, and I'm not gonna sit here and be a hypocrite and contradict myself. My daughter was a Girl Scout too.
Okay. Council President? No.
Any comments for that? Are you good now?
No, I
You
see.
wanna throw comment?
Wait.
You look tired. You got a lot of
Yes.
extracurricular
You're
activities
saying
going
yes,
on?
now I gotta keep track. So there's
How's church?
a yes,
no.
a yes,
No.
your no, and a no. Right,
Did
your
I-
no?
You're gonna choke me out? Did you just say on the record that you're gonna choke me out?
All right, guys, stop. I hate to-
Perhaps I would like to hear that on the recording, because that was definitely a threat, and that needs to be addressed.
Okay, Lisa, you are the breaking vote right now.
Yes, to leave.
Oh, did I miss one? I think I missed. Yes, you or no?
It's a yes, we're waiving it.
We're waiving the fees.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm fine with waiving the fees, but I have to agree with Councilwoman Polidori.
No, I don't.
We passed an ordinance you can't go back after you pass an ordinance unless you change the ordinance and say, we're gonna do it on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I think we should revisit the ordinance. I wasn't here when the ordinance was passed. I think we
No,
need
no.
to revisit it.
What, but we did it just now.
What do you mean?
We just
Workshop.
agreed upon it just now in the workshop.
Yeah,
We agreed upon,
Everything. we
having,
just
having
agreed upon.
only,
We just
only
agreed
the
upon it.
well,
borough,
I wasn't,
Look,
okay.
I don't-
I'm a yes, Bill.
We just did a vote, it's a yes.
It's a yes right now, so this
Yes.
passes.
Wait.
I'm gonna say this, we're gonna pass it this time, and I agree, we need to revisit the ordinance again, a full discussion, everyone knows what we're talking about, come prepared for it. You understand it doesn't involve the groups that we're talking about, so you all know all this coming in. You all kinda heard that before, and we went the right direction, but now we're changing that, it looks like.
Well, honestly, I mean, we were talking about fishermen coming in and making.
But we actually said Girl Scouts
Yeah,
and
we
Boy
were
Scouts.
talking about all that way back when we wrote that, so we weren't talking about the kids
No,
in
we did
town.
say, we
really
brought them
weren't.
up first, we
Yeah.
said.
Well, that's the
No,
first
she
time
means
I-
when the ordinance was original.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where we are. It's passed
Oh.
right now, and
Okay.
then we'll have to
I-
readdress it.
Okay, sorry. I
Who's
have a
on the
lot more-
ordinance
I have a lot
That's
more to
me.
say.
I'm the chair.
All right, so
All right,
you'll have to.
we'll be contacting you then.
What do you think, Bob?
All right, wait a second. I have a lot
Go ahead,
more.
you got a report.
Yes, I do have a report. Was that it?
Good.
I'll provide you with past
Yes.
applications so you can see who's applied.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now I have a motion to approve a request from the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad to hold a tag-style fundraiser on October 13th, 2024, between the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., rain date October 20th, 2024, at the intersection of Hamburg Turnpike and Ramapo Ave. Police have approved a traffic control plan, ANSI certified traffic vest to be worn, positioned in yellow no travel portion roadway behind traffic barrels. The State County Board of County Commissioners has been notified.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Council President Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? And now you have a report.
Okay, yes.
Don't talk
Um,
about the ordinance.
I will not. I attended the recreation meeting. We have pickleball adults, September 10th to October 15th, 5:30 to 7. Let's see, we have Women's Get Fit, Monday and Wednesday, September 16th to November 20th at the Lincoln School Gym. Halloween Hunt, September, October 20th, 7 p.m., Hirschfield Park, rain date, October 21st. Did I say September?
You did say September.
It's October
Yeah.
20th. Breakfast with Santa, Saturday, December 14th, 2024, at the Pompton Lakes Elks. There's two seatings, 8:30 and 10:30. And then there's pickleball, Saturday, November 2nd to December 7th, at the Lincoln School Gym. For more information, you can call Karen at 973-839-4167. Right, I have more. And then I attended the Pompton Day meeting leading up to Pompton Day. We had some early rain, but otherwise the event was wonderful. I mean, it turned out to be a beautiful day. All the spots were sold out. We had a lot of vendors. It was very nice. It was a beautiful day. And I have some winners here. So the Pompton Day raffle winners, first place was Kathy Santers. Second was Chris Weninger. Third was Trudy.
Yeah, I had a problem with that one too.
I'm trying to read someone's handwriting, so it's a little hard. Muccio, I think. We had 198 runners or / walkers for the 5K. 23 children for the fishing derby. First place was Elena Orleano. Second was Cara Davidson, and third was Zoe Larahan. We had 8 competed in the kayak race. The PLRYO punt, pass, and kick was canceled due to the rain. We had 40 PLRLL for the home run derby, 30 PLRSA for the Red Bull soccer shootout, 14 PLRYO basketball shootout, 8 for the Jiu-Jitsu Cup, top Jiu-Jitsu. 6 teams competed for the fire truck pull, and the winners were the Jennings family. It says they beat the Girl Scouts. That's Applebee's Stuff the Bus was very successful. Pompton Lakes Rec, 400 goldfish winners. What are these? She has a few here. UPWA Cardinal Clash. I don't know what that.
Wrestling.
Yeah. Oh. Maybe that's why I didn't understand what that was. They had interviews and photos. How nice. Jack's Petting Zoo was, kid and family friendly. The vendors were sold. They had 31 food vendors. You said that. And then Lakeside School and the Pompton Lakes, Lakeside Middle School were open. Dunk Tank. We had Principal Scott Wyszynski, Lila Cruz, Aiden Vizueta and Ava Vizueta, AJ Purcell, and David Farnick. And I think, she's thanking the volunteers and the businesses and the ads and the Pompton Lakes Elks and the Board of Education and many more. That was from Karen. And I myself would like to thank Karen, Steve Baig, Danny Black, Mike Shacatano, and everyone who helped on the Pompton Day Committee, because they really worked very hard and it was very successful. I'd like to thank all the vendors, the police, fire, EMS, and the Jennings family for 40 plus years run the 5K run, and it was a great turnout. Congratulations to Detective Forte, and I'd like to thank Liz and everyone who made the 9/11 ceremony so nice. It really was nice. It's touching. And then I just had a couple of questions. I listened to the redevelopment meeting, and in that meeting, they said that although they, okay, so I'm trying to understand all of this, and they say, so they set forth the redevelopment plan, and they suggest the pilot and all of that, but it's our job to implement that or fine. If
To
this,
approve that,
To approve it.
not to implement, to approve.
well, okay, so is it that the CJM building, the one that they just got their permits and they started clearing out? So if they don't clear that out, like if they don't do it in such a, that's our job.
No, that would be redevelopment could recommend to us or to the administration, really, it wouldn't be out of our hands. It would be administration to pull the pilot.
But that's not
We
what
would have
they
to vote
said.
to pull the pilot.
I'm not sure, do we?
They,
I don't-
We would
that's
have
not,
to vote.
Would we
yeah,
vote?
they,
Okay.
okay,
We would
because they
vote.
said it was,
Yeah.
it was our responsibility. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
of
it
that,
is.
because then we need to keep an eye on it.
Well, no, but, so let's understand what that means. They can just do a little bit of work, and that carries them
For how
60
long?
days. So they're gonna do it, they're gonna finish this, there's no question in my mind they're going to do that. But we did put pressure on them to start for the 60 days, and that's why they started. They have time now, it's not like every day they have to be out there working crazy to do this.
Well, I would hope.
But I would hope, he's losing money every day he doesn't do it, so
Okay.
he's got to do it, yes. But that is correct, we make the decision.
So it's the council that makes that decision, okay.
But they fell within, just so we get it straight, they did fall within their parameters. They did what they were supposed to do within the 60 days.
Yes, no, I know they had so many days to start work after their permits.
Correct.
And they started that. I just wanted to know how many days they had after
It's like
that.
another 60 days.
And to make sure that we were really responsible for keeping an eye on
Yeah.
that, not the redevelopment agency.
Well, Sal the building department would reach out to us, probably to Michael, and say they haven't done anything in 60 days. Bring it to
Okay.
council.
And then I had just a question. I know I emailed you, Michael, about the letters, the answer, 10-day. I was just wondering if there was a response sent and what that response was, if you can forward it to us. And, I did notice something on the bill list I wanted to ask you about. There's two charges. One is for Passaic County Community College, and the other one is for Rutgers. And I wanted to know if they were like college classes or if they're just courses. Like, is that a course that someone's taking?
In my report, I'll address it.
Okay.
I have to find it.
Okay. And that's it. My report.
Thank you for your report. Attorney?
Two brief things, man. One is that Michael sent over to me a supplemental assessment that the borough has received from the joint insurance fund that the borough was formerly a member of, the Middlesex County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. And my understanding is that they've been sending these supplemental assessments to the borough over the past year or two. And the borough is one of 50 public entities that's been receiving supplemental assessments. And there's some question as to whether the assessment is really claims related or whether it's mismanagement of the joint insurance fund. And so I did a little digging. I saw that I was familiar with the business administrator of one of the other towns that has a significantly higher supplemental assessment. And I spoke to their attorney, and there's a cohort of public entities, 20-some, that have thrown their lot together and have a joint defense agreement. I just got that today, so I'm going to go through that. I'm going to talk to Michael. And what I may recommend is that we talk about that in closed session at the next meeting.
We chose a couple of years ago not to do it, and I don't remember why.
Okay. Yeah, just, there may be strength in numbers, but I
I
don't know, but I will, I'll have more to say about that in the closed session. Second is, like you, Michael included me on circulating the notice of violations. And so I just asked Michael to send me the contractor's agreement. And there is an indemnity provision in that agreement. And so I suggested to the engineer that we talk about, who's responsible for what here. And that's something also that we may have a closed session on for next one. That meeting has yet to come. happened, I spoke to Tom Gray, we just exchanged emails, yesterday. So we can get together next week with Michael and go through that, so.
Sounds good. Okay, Minister's report.
Thank you, Mayor. If you are not aware, we had a restriping issue down at the pond hole with 26-30 Lakeside Ave, which is owned by a business owner in town. When we resurfaced the pond hole many years ago, the business owner was claiming that we took 2 parking spots away from her when we restriped the pond hole. I had the borough engineer look into it over the past few months. He did confirm that we did take away the 2 spots. And just this past week, as part of the Howard Street Improvements Project, we were able to restripe a section of her property to give her back the 2 spots that we took away from her. So that has been completed, and you can go down and take a look at the new striping exhibit that was done. So we're happy that that was finished. And then the last thing I have for tonight is, yes, we did receive 7 notice of violations from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. We did have a 10-day window of response to the DEP. Our borough engineer, Tom Barati, did request an extension to them. We were granted the extension of an additional 10 days, and we are setting up a meeting with the DEP to discuss further. So more to come on that topic. Thank you.
Did you want to answer Lisa's concerns?
Oh, yes, my apologies. The first class with the Passaic County Community College is with a continuing education class for the building department, for an inspector. And then the course with Rutgers is for a continuing ed class in the finance department. Thank you.
Any questions for the administration? Nope? Okay. Do you have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Council President Devine, Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from public like to address?
We're holding a lot of houses. Tonight I'm here to put on my shirt, because I literally came right from the Girl Scout week. I've been mad at you guys before, you all know that. I've been disappointed before. I've never been disgusted the way I've been. I want you to understand, one, what the costs you're talking about are. Attorney, I don't know if you'll make it to a lot of meetings. Councilman Henry and I have 2 kids, usually on the family evenings. I'm chair of the flood advisory board, manager and chair, please don't make it to me. I'm service manager too. Wear a lot of hats. I know how things work. I understand following rules. Ask any of my leaders how much I make them follow our council's rules. You set this policy in place over a year ago. I have jumped in every hoop you have set up. Every hoop. You sent out a whole harmless agreement that I looked at and said, I need a lawyer to interpret this. I am not comfortable signing this. I'm a landscape architect. I'm not a lawyer. Sent it out to council. I had a hoop. I followed the rules. I followed all of the rules. Every time. Last year you waived the fees for a fall festival, for a walk of that campfire. I want you to understand the fees you waived, because right now you're mighty money hungry towards a service organization. $60 per hour. That is what is on the permit. $60 per hour. A 4-hour event involving 100 girls running events for the community, open to the community. Okay, that's what the fall festival is. If you're not from this community, probably you've never been to one. It holds every single year at Hartsfield for a ritual last year. It holds every year at Hartsfield. Every troop sets up a booth doing some little craft thing. They make little lollipops into ghosts with napkins, where they have bowling with pumpkins. It's a fundraiser for the service units so we can provide services to the girls, because in case you are not aware, this town is a really big community spring. Not all of our girls' families can afford to pay $60, $70, $100, $200 for a camping weekend for them. We run fundraisers so that we can give these girls opportunities. Sometimes these are the opportunities they get that lead to careers, that lead to academy. And that's what we're talking about with the goals of this organization. Our whole festival, we meet the park for about 10 hours. So you're not talking about $45, Councilman, you're talking about $600. That's a lot of money. And even putting that aside, okay, rules are rules. We don't care that it's girls, we don't care that it's students, we don't care that it's Girl Scouts. Rules are rules, right? Right? Rules are rules. So, what about girls who are doing service events in the park? Community service events in the park. Do my girls have to pay to clean up litter on a trail? Do my girls have to pay to install a little free library? We have 2 of them in this town because of my girls. 296380 installed a little library which they have maintained. It was vandalized twice. They paid for repairs. The maintenance of it has not cost this borough a red cent. But you know what? The books are always gone, and new books go in, because that helps community literacy. But you want my girls to pay $60 an hour to install something like that? They did the same thing at Lakeside Park. In fact, the troop that did that was my younger one's troop. They ran a summer reading program. It was free of charge. Free of charge 2 Saturdays during the summer where they read books to little kids. Great experience for the girls. They had to plan, they had to learn. It was fantastic. You want them to pay $60 an hour. Each of those events, we blocked out 2 hours for the event itself, half an hour for cleanup, half an hour for set, for $180 for 2 events for $360. They're supposed to pay. To what? To read stories to younger children, to encourage literacy in your community, to install physical, lasting things. You may not be familiar with the bronze, silver, and gold awards that Girl Scouts do. They're the higher service awards. Gold Award is all things compared to Eagle Scout, but the Gold Award has a higher hours required of it, and is actually a more rigorous process. The last piece of the puzzle on all of those awards, bronze for middle school, bronze for 4th and 5th grade, start young. Silver for middle school, gold for high school. The last piece of that is that it must be sustainable. It must carry on in the community after the girl has aged out and graduated. You don't want this in Pompton Lakes anymore, I guess. Because my girls cannot afford to do those projects if they have to pay to use public places in this town. I'm disgusted. I'm so disappointed. I have never been this disappointed in you. I don't know if I have ever been this angry with all of you. I appreciate the questions asked. I appreciate voting to leave it. I appreciate continuing to value these girls. I really do. And you know I appreciate your work. You were a Girl Scout leader. You should know the programs. You should know what they do.
The examples you gave had nothing to do with what was the ordinance.
But I still get my 5 minutes if you take on board.
Well, I think the 5 minutes, where are we?
Just about.
Okay, it's up. So you got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
I'm going to apply this to the Boy Scouts too. Do I have to tell an Eagle Scout, who I just signed off on paperwork for, that he, in addition to the fundraising, he's going to build 2 kiosks for us in Morristown Greenway. It's already been approved. He's put a hell of a lot of work into that. He's got to fundraise and cover all his materials. The borough isn't paying for any of this. You're not paying for the lumber. You're not paying for the labor. You are getting something for nothing from these scout groups. You are getting service from these scout groups. And instead you want to take from them? This is not an ordinary nonprofit that is doing service somewhere else and then coming in. These are kids who are working in these places that you want to now charge them to be? When do you ever charge someone to do service in the space where they are? I don't understand how you can say that this is the same as every other. I really don't. And I don't understand how you can be so blind as to think that it is. And don't think that this is we'll just have to pull out three things in policy. This is how it has to be. If you have to charge us to be there and you can't afford to be there, we can't afford to be there. It's really unfortunate. I don't know.
Okay, I'll answer it. Thank you. Anyone else from the public want to address? Please step up.
It becomes Howard Street on the links. First, I just have a quick question about the agenda. Well, we have an agenda that was posted for the public to see. Are you supposed to deviate from that agenda without concurring with the rest of the council as you did tonight? Normally, I would think as a former councilman, we would poll the council and see if you would like to deviate from the agenda, which you did. You had the redevelopment lady speak first, and that's way off of the agenda's detail here that was posted. So that I have a problem with. But my big problem is with the 7 notices of violation in this town. Now I'd like to know, Michael, if you have that letter in your possession that the engineer wrote. Because I'll tell you what, in that letter, the DEP, which I opened, it states that the borough is going to take responsibility for all the work that was done on private property. Okay, we received, I believe, 4 notices of violation, and private property owners received 3. Okay, I want to know if you guys voted to clean up somebody else's mess, who made a mistake, and did damage to other people's property, caused us to get a notice of violation, and we're sending information to the engineer and to the DEP from our engineer without any discussion, okay, with this governing body. And that's what I want to know. Did any of you discuss this before that letter was sent? Because that letter clearly states that the borough was taking responsibility for that, and I got a problem with that. The taxpayer should not have to pay for damage that somebody else did. We hired that guy to do street cleaning. We didn't hire him to run a soil mining operation behind the hardware store, okay? And it was brought to your attention by me over 6 months ago. I came in and I stated on the record that you're doing a great job on the CRS, that I don't think we get any points for filling in the river. And then when I read the minutes, it wasn't in the minutes what I said about the river, but it was congratulations on the good job with the CRS. And I still congratulate you for that. But the damage you're doing here is a big mistake. And these taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for somebody else's mistake. Either you go after his insurance company, or you go after your own insurance company because you hired him. But you didn't hire him to work on other people's property. So I would be very concerned that if you people didn't have any conversation whatsoever on a public record of sending down a letter stating that you're going to repair people's property that someone else did damage to, that's a problem for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
Roger 747, some of that. I originally came to just ask a question about enforcement of parking on lawns, because I still see it on public property. And if you look at the corner of Van and Lennox, you'll see people parking along the fence line of the school. And it's turned into a muddy mess. Luckily, it hasn't rained in a while, so it's not so bad right now. But that should probably be addressed along with all the other parking on lawns and in public areas. Then it's a problem in, not so much in Pond Hall, but where Ed was talking about on the other side of Longview Avenue. There's all kinds of parking there and leaving abandoned cars. So I think that I don't see the enforcement. I don't know what you guys are doing. You could address that here, or you can just take it and decide to take a look and drive around and see it. Now, while I was sitting through this very long meeting, I noticed 2 other things that were concerning. the presentation of the planner was talking about the vision of the downtown. Now, the vision of the downtown isn't just like the bulk requirements and the setbacks, but ultimately, how many units do you want downtown? So when you set the standards of redevelopment, you have to say, okay, we want 600 units. Because the way I see the development happening, it's all very piecemeal. So you could end up with, if you don't pay attention, you can end up with, say, 20 100-unit buildings. Now, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but you could piecemeal your way to a much larger development that you see, or how many square feet of commercial property you want, or how many square feet of retail. So when you're looking at the, and you don't have to address this, I just want you to think about it, when you are looking at the redevelopment plan, this should be the consideration. Ultimately, how big of a development do you want to have there? And then the last thing is I sat through a whole discussion about sidewalks. Now, the question, you guys are having a discussion without understanding the scope. So you need to know how many lineal feet of sidewalks that are in disrepair, how many are good, so you can understand the cost of what you're talking about. There was 0 facts presented, and you spent 25 minutes talking about it, which is just too long to sit here and listen to. So I think you really need to change what you're doing when you have a discussion about this, have some real facts so you know what you're talking about. And then with regards to assessments, listen, it's tough if somebody can't afford it, but there are ways to handle that. You can do an assessment over time. So it's not just, hit a guy with a $3,000 bill, hit him with a $300 a month bill, when he sells his property, then you collect. You'll always collect, you can lay out the money, but you have the first lien ahead of everybody, because you're a public entity. Your lien comes ahead of the mortgage, your lien comes ahead of everybody. So I think that there's some sort of understanding you need to understand about liens and fines, and also, what the scope of the work is before you make any kind of decisions. And you apparently made a decision without understanding the scope. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
Well, I might as well raise my hand.
Go for it.
On a good note, I agree with you on the private. I have friends and relatives that come down just to see it, and it's a really great show. He was talking about sidewalks. Through the Shade Tree Commission that I've been on for the last 12 years or so, I went across sidewalk issues all the time. Talking about Councilman Line, says it doesn't matter if there's new slabs or old slabs. What happened when they did the handicapped access on each end of Montclair Avenue? I talked to the engineer as he was walking along, and I said, are you going to replace sidewalks? He says, no, we don't do that. We're just doing it in the end. Okay. So I left, I came back home. 6 of my slabs were missing. So I said, you just told me you don't do sidewalks. He says, well, when we do the handicap, we have to walk the sidewalk because of some slabs high, some slabs are high, and if it's wheelchair access that we provided, then we have to replace. Well, why didn't you tell me that first? Anyway, so my sidewalks, new one, old one, new one, old one. Said it doesn't matter, but it's in front of my house, and it looks horrendous, but this is the way it is. You're talking about assessing the homeowner over a period of time, like the gentleman just said. You're assessing him for something he doesn't even own. The sidewalks are the borough right of way. Listening to the attorney, he was talking about legally, the homeowner has to maintain the sidewalk, shovel the snow regularly. But if there's a liability, someone gets hurt, this is what you said, then the town's responsible. Now the town's responsible for an issue that the homeowner maintains. How do we figure that out? So, also, the mayor was talking about the curbs. Through my experience with Shade Tree and on sidewalk issues, there is an ordinance, I don't know the number right offhand, in our borough, that the curb is the responsibility of the homeowner also. We had a discussion when you were talking about your curb being replace it unless you change the ordinance, Mr. Metro. You're gonna have to pay for the curb also. Now, I understand the road projects, like the Pompton and Gulf Highway, a lot of the curbs are replaced then. When I run across sidewalk issues, a lot of the homeowners say it's the borough tree that lifted the sidewalk, which is the issue. And they're not gonna replace or fix the sidewalk until the trees come. Now, I've had 2 locations in town where I took the trees down, and a year later, they still haven't fixed the sidewalk. So, the sidewalk issues, it's gonna be it's a big issue to address. Yeah, the curb is the homeowner's responsibility, according to the ordinance. And when Kevin Boyle was our borough administrator, he had also said, maybe Michael can address this, is when they're doing a complete road project, like we're gonna do on Boyle's Highway, that in that project, you can plant trees. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we can do that. Speaking with Councilman DeWine last year, he had said that Dawes Highway is an area that does need trees. Talking with Mrs. Bennett, south end of town, does need trees. So maybe in that project, we can get some trees planted on Dawes Highway. We can do it all at once. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved. Second.
Council President Devine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Ms. Bennett, I hear you. I understand what you're saying completely. And this is why we're gonna revisit this whole ordinance. Because the problem is, if we just say 501c groups, that does leave some groups like the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts out. I understand that. But on the same token, you have to, and I know you understand this, that doesn't stop another group who says, I want to play Frisbee football, and it's a club in town that we want to use the property. So, it goes both ways. But I do believe what you're saying. We have to figure out a way to get the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I think most of this council, by the way, agrees with that. I just think, going back to Councilman DeWine's point, and Councilman Polidori's point, this is what we voted on a year ago, okay? If this is what we voted on, and you said it yourself, you have to follow the rules, then we do have to follow the rules. Now, that doesn't mean we can't change the rules, okay, and we can move forward and see how that goes. And the reason I was a little hesitant about what happened tonight is because we just had, and you weren't here for this, we just had the discussion, and then we changed what we just decided. So we can't really do that. We can't, if we have to change it because it doesn't work, the ordinance committee's gonna rewrite an ordinance, we're gonna revisit it, we're gonna get some intake from people on how to make this work, and try to get the groups in. But you gotta remember, there are gonna be groups that say, I'm the snowman building group and we want it for 6 hours, and we built snowmen in December. They're not from, there may be some from town, but they're not a group like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So we have to distinguish between those two groups. So I think the job of the ordinance committee is gonna be to try to figure out a compromise to make that work. Right now, fees are waived for you, so it's a good thing, okay? Hopefully, Bobby will start to look at this and address it, and hopefully in the next couple of meetings, we'll come up with a solution, okay? Mr. Meeker, I apologize if I apologize, I don't know. Am I allowed to just move things into
Well, no one objected, so, yeah.
Okay. So that answers that question. About the property of the DEP, we are still in the beginning stages of this. I hear what you're saying, I hear about the stone, I hear about the insurance. Those are not things that are not off the table. We are gonna have that discussion, and we're gonna sit with the administration and the DEP and figure out what's going on. About who's working on private property, I can't really address that. I don't think, and some of the council here can respond if they want, did we ever discuss working on private property? I don't remember that we did. But that might have been a borough administrator before Michael that made that decision, which is what my guess was. It was a borough administration that made that decision on their own. And if it falls under the threshold of bid, he's allowed to do that. So I don't know what those numbers are, and I don't know if we're going to address the private property or not. Those are all discussions we're going to have. And Michael, I'll let you add anything you want to add about that. Going forward, we're in the beginning phases of this. This is not, as you know, because you've done this before, this is not the first rodeo we've had with the DEP and these concerns. and it seems to always work itself out by compromise between the DEP and us doing what we're supposed to do, and the DEP telling us what we're supposed to do. About the private property, that's a discussion, and if it has to, it will come to the council to decide if we're gonna go on private property. So that's what I have with that. Mr. Seven, you brought up a lot of great points, but I will tell you, school parking is school parking. We have no jurisdiction on school, so I know where you're talking about the property there. That's up to the school to address. Private property, unless they have, and I am 100% in agreement with you. I told you this last time. If cars are parked on grass and up on blocks, they need to be ticketed. I have no in between. The problem with that is someone has to call in and report that. It just has to be, it could be an anonymous call and just say, this is the address, the house has, and I'm gonna tell you, I've done it. I have made calls, because I don't like it either. About parking in private property and behind the hardware store and those things, that's all private property. They're under, unless they're breaking some type of law, like leaking oil or something like that, that's private property. There's nothing we can do about that. You also mentioned about the meeting, so I don't know if you understand completely, we voted just recently to add a workshop. A workshop is a discussion. There's no real decisions made. Mike is, our administrator is asking for a feeling of what we feel. We're not voting yes or no on really a yes or no concept on anything. That's why it takes so long. It's a discussion. That was a long discussion, and having redevelopment before that was a long discussion. I've asked numerous times to try to reduce our workshops a little bit because we don't want to spend an hour just on workshop. But what you said does make some sense, and this goes for Mr. Hinton also. I knew the sidewalk thing was going to be a concern. There's no question. I've done this long enough. No one's going to be happy with that decision, one way or the other. But at the end of the day, we do have to somehow fix our sidewalks too, because they are unsafe. So if we can save some money to the homeowner, this is my own personal opinion, by having it done while they're there, it's going to save them a little money. They can go out on their own and do it. It's going to cost them more money, but I understand there's some older residents that maybe can't afford it right now. But if they ever want to sell that property, they're going to have to fix the sidewalk. So either way, they're going to have to fix the sidewalk. And don't we all want better sidewalks? I would think we all want better sidewalks. Now, Mr. Hinton, you brought up a point, and again, I agree with you. I asked the same questions. Are you replacing any of my slabs? They said no. They came in and put the handicap accessible, and then all of a sudden there's 3 slabs replaced. They said the same thing they told you. They measured it, they used some parameter, and they said, well, this says that this has to be replaced. Well, then you should have just told me right from the beginning that this was going to be replaced, because I got the same situation. I've got a bright white sidewalk, and then my old dirty sidewalk from the last 20 years. It does stick out. I'm agreeing with the council president, though. Sidewalk's a sidewalk. If it's white or if it's brown, it's still a sidewalk, right? And that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to walk on it, it's supposed to be safe, and you're not supposed to have any issues with that. So, again, that was a discussion in a workshop. We're going to have many more discussions, I am sure, about sidewalks, just like the trees. You know, I'm not a fan of this whole private property tree thing. I think we've worked a compromise out right now that'll hopefully help some of the residents. But at the end of the day, it's education, just like Councilman Cruz was saying. We're going to have to educate the public about their sidewalks and the trees on private property. The 6 people that are sitting here and the 7 people that watch it on Channel 77 isn't most of the town. So what we do, it's going to be an education process to make that happen. Did I miss anything? Handicap, planting trees. Mike, can you look into planting trees when we do road work? That's fine. The assessment, I forgot which one of you gentlemen brought it up. I'm leaning toward, my personal opinion is leaning towards an assessment, but a small assessment, like someone mentioned. We do a small number and make them pay it over 10 years or whatever it is, so it's not a big number, and everybody wins. They get a brand new sidewalk, we get a brand new sidewalk, and it's costing them very little money. But again, that's going to be a discussion we'll have this and how we handle that. So that's what I have. What's that?
I know.
Okay. Okay, where are we? Motion, no, anybody have, privilege of the floor?
Oh, I just wanted to ask Michael, which I apologize. Mr. Pavloff, he came last month, I believe, and he was concerned about the storm drain not being repaired. Do you have any update?
Thank you, Councilwoman, and apologies for the voice, I just have a little cold.
No problem.
Yes, we did go on site last month with the borough engineer to look at the conditions, and the engineer is working on a final construction document that we can present to the governing body, hopefully over the fall.
Okay.
But we're in constant communication with him.
Okay.
Regarding the project.
And that's important.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other pros before? Okay, motion to adjourn into, we have a closed session, correct? Yes. A motion to adjourn into closed session. I thank everyone for coming. Oh,
Second.
Council President, in closed session, we discussed the negotiation. A motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Kilberg, Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Again. Okay, that's it. We're done.